What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a story time for y'all that should be pretty entertaining, you know. Sometimes in life you meet a character, just somebody that's so out there you can't even believe that they're real. And there was somebody that I knew in college named Martin who definitely fit that description of somebody you just can't believe actually exists. And yeah, I just figured I would be telling the story time to you guys today. As you can tell, it's a little bit longer, so before we get into it, be sure to press the like button, or no joke, no scam, you're gonna become Martin. And without further ado, let's get into it. I knew Martin was going to be a weird dude right away, almost the second that I met him, you know, because when he introduced himself to me, it wasn't like he was like, "Hey, I'm Martin, what's up, nice to meet you." He introduced himself as Metal Martin, you know, and I was thinking maybe he got that nickname because he likes metal music, like he's really into old rock and roll, so I decided to ask him what his nickname meant, like why he got it. And instead of telling me something about music or like rock and roll, he looked at me and with a dead face said, "They call me Metal Martin because I like to eat metal." Eat metal, not meat metal. Same thing, you know what I'm saying. Meaty metal would be easier to eat. And obviously, I thought he was joking, so I start laughing at it. I'm like, oh, haha, like this guy's trying to convince me that he eats metal. And then I realized that I'm the only one laughing, bro. Like, this dude is not giggling in the slightest. If I had told somebody that I just love munching on metal, I feel like I'd be giggling a little bit. But he is side-eyeing me pretty damn hard with my reaction to him saying that he eats metal. And, you know, while he's giving me a reaction, I'm just kind of not sure what to do. And then he asked me a second question, and obviously I just had to say yes. He asked me if I want to see proof that he can eat metal. And whenever somebody says that they have like a really weird talent and then asks to show you it, chances are they want to show off, so I didn't feel weird saying yes. But obviously at the same time, yeah, I do want to see how this guy got the nickname Metal Martin if he eats metal. And sure enough, dude, out of his backpack, he pulls this empty Coke can. I'm not sure how long he had been carrying it on him. I'm not sure, you know, why he just carries trash in his backpack, apparently because it's Metal Martin, that's just what he does. But sure enough, he picks up the can out of his backpack, kind of crunches it a little bit, and then puts his teeth right in the middle of the can and like crunches it and starts like trying to bite it. And after a little bit, dude, he manages to break off a chunk. I see it in his mouth. He starts chewing. I don't know how his gums aren't just like cut, bleeding. And sure enough, he swallows like the piece of the can. And at that point, I'm sure the look on my face must have been like, what the hell is going on? Because he says, I don't really want to eat more right now, and like puts it back in his backpack. You know, gotta save the rest for later, just in case in the next class that we were in, he like decided to take a chunk out of the can again or whatever. So I'm kind of shocked at the situation, and I'm like, yeah, you probably don't want to finish it. And he's like, no, I'm gonna finish it later, trust me. Like, he was very adamant that he's gonna finish it later. And keep in mind, this is my first impression of him, bro. Like, not even a bad one, I guess. But it's just kind of out there to meet someone and the very first thing that you do is tell them about the really weird skill you have about eating metal, you know? Like, hey, nice to meet you, I'm the human garbage disposal. And I will say, it wasn't even like he was eating the metal and like didn't enjoy it, you know? I firmly believe if I would not have been there, if he wouldn't have met me, he was about to eat the can anyways. I was just a convenient excuse. Like, truthfully, it seemed like this dude was just hell-bent on having a reason to eat a can, you know, any convenient excuse you would have taken. And from that moment on, I knew that this dude was going to be very entertaining. Like, I knew that it was definitely weird. He was out there. He was a bizarre dude, but it was going to be entertaining to just keep an eye on him. And thankfully, I ended up seeing a lot more of Martin. We ended up living in the same dorm hall, not the same dorm room. I think he was actually like 2 floors beneath me, but regardless, I was in the same building as him, so I would just kind of see him at times when I was like going to and from class, and he was too. And I'm not kidding you when I say that every time I saw this dude, he was up to something weird and out there that just made no sense. And like, I wasn't trying to stalk him, you know, that's the craziest part. Usually if you're trying to find somebody doing something weird, you can find it. But like, I would just stumble upon him doing inexplainable things while just walking by. It wasn't even like I had to stalk him. I remember one time while I was coming back from class, I saw him carrying 4 watermelons, not in a bag, just like struggling to carry 4 watermelons with his arms, and they were huge watermelons. So I walked up to him and I go, hey man, do you want some help with that? Thinking that like, I don't know, he had gotten some watermelons for his dorm, why he had just bought 4 watermelons, I don't know, I was just trying to help. And when I offer him help, he looks at me like I'm on crack, bro, like I'm the crazy person for not understanding what's going on right here. And he told me that he was practicing and didn't need my help. I don't know what the hell he was practicing, dude. What sport is out there where you're just carrying 4 watermelons? But sure enough, he got all pissed off at me having the nerve to offer to help him. And that's like the only time I ever saw him do that too. You know, usually if somebody's practicing something, you would see it more than once, or like it would happen more than once, or they'd explain something. But no, he just got all pissed off at me, swore he was practicing, and to get out of there. Like, it was just stuff like that. Why is this dude carrying nothing but 4 watermelons? What is he practicing? Why can no one help him? There was just always more questions than answers whenever I bumped into this dude. And to this day, I still don't really know what he was doing with that, bro. Why? That's the guy from the math problems. Like, you know when you're doing math and it's like Jeremy bought 47 watermelons? Apparently Martin was the type of guy who was doing that, you know? Oh, don't mind me. I got all the watermelons, guys. We sent you to get milk, bro. We can't make cookies with watermelon. What is wrong with you? How many times do we have to explain this? Also, just because I know someone's gonna bully me, yes, this is Fortnite gameplay. It's Team Rumble. I hadn't played in literally a year. I just got nostalgic and was like, hey, I wonder if this game's fun. And I didn't play another one, okay? But I'm using the gameplay. Don't bully me too hard. Anyways, beyond just the watermelon weird sports, he would also tell me that he worked undercover for the FBI. And when I asked him to tell me about it, he started telling me this massive story about like how he worked for the FBI. And, you know, call me crazy here, but I kind of feel like one thing about secret agents is that the secret part is kind of an important part of their job. If you're an FBI agent, I don't think you're allowed to just go tell everybody around you that you're an FBI agent. But the story he told me also was just really funny because he was literally telling me the script to 21 Jump Street word for word. For those of you that have never seen that movie, it's like a movie about these cops that have to go undercover in a high school. In the second one, they go undercover in college. And I don't know if he just thought that I had never seen the movie, but he's like explaining 21 Jump Street to me, the plot of the movie, and telling me that like that's what's going on right now in his life. And honestly, I wasn't even that mad about it, bro. I'm a storyteller, I get it, but like, you know, at least if you're gonna make up a story, don't tell me like the script for a movie, because chances are I've seen it. And, you know, when I pointed out the fact that it was very similar to the movie 21 Jump Street, instead of being like, you got me, he decides to commit even further and tell me that 21 Jump Street is based on him. And, you know, 21 Jump Street, the movie, is based on an old TV show, not this kid, so I point that out to him, and he says that the TV show is based on him too. Now, it's an old TV show. At that point, I realized that this guy is really committed to this, and there's basically nothing I can say that's going to, you know, get him to admit that he's not an FBI agent and 21 Jump Street is not based on him, so I just like kind of laugh at it. Maybe the watermelons that he was like stealing earlier were somehow related to him smuggling stuff for 21 Jump Street, you know, like nutritional fruit being used to get stuff across the borders. Beyond just the FBI agent stuff as well, Martin was also just not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. You know, I really don't think he was a bad guy. He just was kind of dumb and a little too curious for his own good. One time, I'm in class and I get a text because our building had gotten evacuated. One of my roommates was in the room, and apparently everybody had to evacuate because of Martin. I guess Martin had been curious about what would happen if somebody were to pull the fire alarm, and instead of like Googling it or asking somebody, he decided that it would be a good idea to pull it. That's right, in the middle of the day, this college student decided to just pull the fire alarm for no reason. I was in class, that wasn't that big of a deal to me, but that's like the type of stupid stuff he would do. I'm not too sure what he was expecting with that, but somehow he doesn't get kicked out after pulling the fire alarm. And you might be thinking that he learned his lesson with fire-related incidents, probably should just stay away from that stuff, but I wish the fire alarm story was the only thing Martin had done involving fire. One other incident, you know, we almost got evacuated because he decided to microwave a marshmallow. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. When you microwave a marshmallow, they get all big and gooey. Like, I understand why you would do it. But he had wrapped the marshmallow in tinfoil in order to make it cook faster. For those of you that don't know what that does, that literally makes the microwave explode. You can't put tinfoil or aluminum inside of a microwave. So the microwave is sparking and he's not paying attention. It ends up like exploding, catching on fire. We have to have a meeting in our common area talking about etiquette and like how to use all the kitchen appliances, bro. We had to have our RA explain to us how a microwave works. Somehow, once again, doesn't get kicked out. He ended up having to buy a new microwave, but like, you know, definitely should have been gone at that point too. And he wasn't allowed to cook anymore after that, right? And obviously obviously all of these stories are wild, but there's still one more that I love more than any. My favorite Martin moment was still one of the times he decided to try to make some extra money by doing something that, once again, just right idea, but the thought just was like half complete. You know this saying, all the lights are on, but nobody's home? I feel like Martin was like half the lights were on and half the people were home, Like it was almost like the idea started good, but the execution and the end of the idea is where everything just went to shit. You see, Martin was from Arizona, where it's super hot all the time. It never freezes. There's never anything going on involving the cold. And one thing that you kind of get used to when you live in a desert is that you can wash cars whenever, 24/7 outside. I'm not a weather expert, it just matters that that's coming up soon. And, I guess Martin had decided that he wanted to start hustling. So he had been going around the building asking everybody for business ideas. And as he's asking everybody for ideas, one of my friends, who was in my dorm room actually, one of my roommates, ended up telling him that he used to wash cars back in high school. The important thing, though, is when you decide to start washing cars, open a car wash, is that you have to ask people if you can wash their car for money. You can't just go out, wash the car, and then demand money from them. Well, I guess Martin didn't end up thinking that part through. He had just heard that you can make money washing cars and just rolled with it. Instead of thinking about how to open a business, or get some clients, he just decided that he wanted to get paid for washing cars right then. So one night at 9 p.m. when everybody else was kind of inside doing their thing, he went out in 40-degree weather and washed everybody's car. And I'm using air quotes around wash the car because he basically just got everybody's cars wet, got water all over the parking lot, and then went back inside. Well, obviously, when you're in Arizona, it's not that big of an issue, but when you're in Utah, which is where we were, and things freeze at night, having a bunch of wet stuff everywhere is not a good idea, bro. So the next morning, everyone's cars are covered in ice and slush. The potholes are frozen over. There are many lakes. There's ice all over the parking lot, just like a thin layer of it, and everyone is super confused because it didn't rain. And then everybody realizes what happened, Martin happened. And the only reason we even figure this out is because he snitches on himself. He started walking up to people that were looking at their cars covered in ice and asking if they liked all of his hard work from last night. So obviously these people are like, what do you mean? And then it clicks, bro. This kid unironically thought he had done a great job washing the cars last night, when in reality he had just turned the entire parking lot into a disaster. So everybody starts getting annoyed with him, asking him why the hell he would wash their car without permission. That's weird, they're not gonna pay him. And he starts getting pissed and demanding that people give him money. He's yelling at them, saying that he did all this hard work, and if they're not gonna pay him, then, he's gonna call the cops for ripping them off. And obviously that's just not the way it works, but it goes to show you, the kid just didn't understand how life worked. What do you mean you don't like my hard work? You need to pay me for it. Bro, they have to say they want the work done first. You can't just paint somebody's house and charge them if they never asked you to paint the house. And at that point, when he starts getting pissed demanding money, is when things really got out of control. Anyways, Martin starts demanding that everyone gives him $10 a piece for the work, and that's not gonna happen. He doesn't understand, what's happening. And finally, he calls the school police. Yeah, that's right, bro. He calls the police to call and say that he did all this work that people didn't want and they won't pay him. He really just did not know reality. So now the school police are coming to investigate whatever the hell is coming on. And obviously they come pretty quickly just to see what's up. There's not much else going on the campus anyways. And they very quickly explain that you can't just do that. You can't just walk up to somebody, wash their car, and then demand payment. That's extortion. And Martin doesn't argue with the cops. Once they explain it, he gets it, and he starts apologizing to everybody, being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I'm sorry, I was just trying to work, just trying to get stuff done. And everybody's just really annoyed with him at that point. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if this makes me a horrible person. I was laughing. I was to the side laughing. And he apologizes to me, and I'm like, dude, honestly, it's pretty funny. And he starts laughing and says he didn't realize how cold it was gonna get last night. Which, honestly, as somebody who's from, a desert city, I'm from Las Vegas, I kinda get it. Yeah, obviously the guy was kinda dumb. There's a reason I'm telling a story about it. But he really wasn't, trying to ruin everybody's day. It was just a side effect of him just being him. You know what I mean? It probably would have been a better idea if he had done it, when it was a little bit hotter and stuff wouldn't have frozen, but hey, that's just the way it is sometimes. And most people are still pissed. They're just giving him dirty looks. Most people are giving me dirty looks for even like talking to him, you know, like, oh, how dare you, this guy has been mean. And the cops are just started standing there now, and they start asking if, like, anybody wants to press charges for vandalism, which, I mean, come on. Obviously, everybody, and thankfully, I should say, everybody said no to that. Nobody went all Karen mode. The guy really didn't mean any harm, and it's ice. Like, it'll just melt. It's really not that big of a deal, bro. I kind of would have been annoyed if somebody would have been like, yes, we need this man prosecuted for Grand Theft Auto. But, Martin did try to apologize to everyone quite a bit after that, dude. He ended up trying to bake these, like, apology muffins for everybody in the dorm, which, you know, is very sweet. It's a sweet concept, but keep in mind that this is the guy that couldn't even microwave a marshmallow correctly. So these muffins end up coming out with, they end up like basically being hockey pucks. And I don't even mean to insult him, just they were not edible, bro. And he starts going around and giving them to people as like an apology. And obviously some people got like a little offended by it. What is this, you know, trying to give somebody an inedible muffin as an apology? It kind of rubs some people the wrong way. I didn't really care, bro. He tried to make muffins. Obviously, the kid's not a chef. I wasn't expecting, like, him to suddenly become Gordon Ramsay and make the most delicious thing ever. He obviously couldn't cook anyways, so who cares? But as he's going from dorm to dorm, like, offering people muffins and apologizing, one guy gets, like, incredibly offended by it. So offended that he, like, grabs the basket of muffins out of Martin's hand and starts throwing them at him. And so they start running down the hallway towards the common area. And I was still kind of by the door, so I end up going down just to see what's up, because, like, oh, commotion in the hallway. I bet you it's something entertaining. And I see this chaos of them, like, throwing muffins at each other running towards the common area. And he picks them up back and starts throwing them back at the guy. And so now they're, like, throwing these hard muffins at each other. And one of them goes out and, like, hits somebody else who's just sitting in the common area in the head. It's just chaos. And some of the people in the common area, you know, were the type of people that used to scream really loud whenever the fire alarm went off in class. Like, they just overreact to stuff to be dramatic for no reason. So when they're throwing muffins at each other, some of the class just starts screaming as if, like, you know, a literal bull just charged into the room and now everyone's, like, lives are on the line, bro. Everyone's freaking out. And then a few more muffins get tossed, a couple more people get hit, and our RA comes down to the common room just to see what's going on. Like, he obviously hears the commotion. You can't have that many people yelling and fighting and not hear anything. And obviously, as the situation becomes clear, the RA is just exhausted at that point, and he tells Martin, he's like, look, I either have to kick you out of the dorm, or you can't use the common area anymore. Like, you have to come, go to your room, and then go to class. Like, you really can't be causing issues anymore because this is just getting out of control. And honestly, yeah, I know some people are like, that's not fair. At that point, he's caused so many problems. You basically have to do something. And he wasn't the type to argue. He really did understand, you know. But one of the stipulations, too, was that he had to pick it up. So, like, Martin had to go around sadly picking up all these, like, hard muffins. I did end up helping him pick up the muffins just because I felt bad, bro. I was like, this is just messy. This is just not a good situation. Muffins are supposed to be used for friendship, not war. After picking up everything, you know, he kind of did just go about his life as normally as possible. I didn't really see him too much because he wasn't allowed in the common area. He did basically just kind of go to and from class, which was probably for the best considering it seemed like anytime he interacted with other people, it just led to him getting in trouble somehow. As for like what happened to Martin, I honestly have no idea. We weren't really boys. I never really like hung out with him or anything. It was just entertaining to just watch everything go down while I was there. I wasn't able to find him on Facebook. I tried. I figured he would be a Facebook guy just because he was just a little weird. I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like old people use Facebook. But regardless, I'm sure he's up to something fun and hopefully doing well, man. Hopefully he like accidentally bought a bunch of a cryptocurrency like Dogecoin and now he's a billionaire somehow. That's my headcanon, all right? In my head from now on, that's what happened to Martin. He became a Dogecoin billionaire because if he didn't, well, that's just gonna be worse. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a quick second to press the like button. It helps the video do better and get into recommended, which gets me more views, which makes me very happy. So, yeah, go ahead and press the like button and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment, I don't know, Fortnite is dead or something? I don't know. Literally comment poop. I don't care. Just comment something as well. It also helps the video do better. And as I've said, if you're new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Other than that, I went ahead and put a bunch of the old story times up on Spotify because I see people saying that you want a way to like listen to them not on YouTube. So I did that. I'll put a link in the description. And along with that is a link to the merch. We've got the two 2 million submerged from the main channel. It looks like this channel's getting closer to that milestone as well, so big thank you to you guys for that. But go check that out. And last but certainly not least, if you use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout, you get a fat discount. Helps me out, helps you out. You get some cool G Fuel out of it. Literally everyone is a winner. But yeah, on that note, guys, I'm pretty sure that's everything I gotta plug and shout out. Big thank you to everyone who supports the channel. And on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And I'll see you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time that was sent in by a subscriber that I've never really talked about before, but basically this dude got scammed by somebody he thought was a friend who was like pretending to be a stock investor, but in reality was just pocketing all the bands. Honestly, the situation I just kind of felt like making a video about because it was crazy to read about, and I felt like it would be a good way to let y'all know that you gotta be careful, bro. Just because somebody kind of sounds like they know what they're talking about doesn't mean you should trust them with money. But before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. You're gonna get scammed. And that's not very swag. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the main character of this story we're gonna call Tony. And Tony was a freshman in college when all of this went down. He had a job at a pizza place and, you know, worked a lot but was not making a lot of money. Working an hourly job does kind of suck, but it's something that everybody just kind of has to do. You got to start at the bottom of the totem pole. I've worked those jobs, and yeah, it does definitely suck when somebody tells you that like an hour of your time is worth $7.25, but it is what it is. But obviously, when you're working that job, you want to make more money. So Tony started like Googling ways to make more money, just kind of trying to find ways to get money on the side. And everything he saw kind of said that like investing in the stock market was a good way to do it. Obviously, it's been like incredibly popular over the last year for everybody to be investing in the stock market, so you know, he kind of was like, oh, this is a great way to make a bunch of money. And he started doing research on stocks himself and kind of realized that it was very complicated, and to be honest, unless you're like a hedge fund investor or really know what you're doing, you can make money on the stock market, but you're never gonna like quadruple your money in 4 days, you know what I mean? So he started talking to a couple of his friends, and a couple of his friends mentioned that they knew this dude named Dennis, and they introduced him to him, and Dennis starts talking about how he makes all this money on the stock market. He's the best investor ever. He's making like 5% a day. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's total BS, all right? Like, yes, you know, there has been times where I've personally gotten insanely lucky and gotten like 20% in a day, but those are few and far in between. You know, that does not happen on a daily basis. If this dude was averaging 5% a day, he would be like a multi-billionaire. The S&P 500, which is like the 500 biggest companies in America, grows at like 7% a year. So this dude is basically saying he does almost what that does in a year every single day without fail. But you know, he's saying all the buzzwords, he's saying everything that sounds right, so Tony decides to trust him. He's like, wow, this guy really seems like he knows what he's doing. This is a great idea. So he asks if Dennis will invest money for him. And Dennis says, yeah, but you know, I'm gonna take a 10% fee of anything you give me just because of all the hard work that I'm doing. And he also mentions that it's risky. There is a chance that he might lose all of his money, just kind of trying to like cover his butt, you know, just in case the money disappears. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And Tony started off by giving him $1,000 to invest. And that's not like a crazy large amount of money to start investing with. It's a great start, don't get me wrong. But, you know, just to give you guys an idea of how absolutely insane what this guy was promising was, after a week, he would have like $1,200-ish. After a month, you know, he would have $2,600. Okay, that seems reasonable. After a year, though, if he actually could average 5% a day consistently and never failed, it would be like $157 million. So, you know, that's the issue. You might be able to get lucky and get 5% a day, maybe like twice a year. But yeah, if you're actually able to average 5% a day every single day, you're like a billionaire. You have no reason to be taking $1,000 from kids on college campuses. Anyways, he gives him the money, and for about a month, he believes that it's working. He's sending him like these fake statements, kind of showing that his money is growing, kind of showing him that everything's working the way it's supposed to, and he's really, really excited. But after about a month, he ends up damaging his car's transmission. So he's like, crap, bro, I'm gonna need a bunch of money to fix this. He didn't have enough in his savings account. So he goes to Dennis and he's like, hey, can I have $700? You know, at that point, apparently he's got almost $3,000, so he doesn't think it's gonna be a big deal. But Dennis really does not want to give him the money, bro. He's like doing everything he can to avoid actually giving him the money back. And, you know, going back and forth, he's like, no, I need my $700. And finally, Dennis is like, fine, but it's going to take me a couple days to get it for you. And after a few days, Dennis like comes over to his dorm room, gives him the money, acting all pissed off, like it was the most annoying thing in the world. And obviously, Tony is like, well, that's kind of weird, I guess, but, you know, he got his money, so he doesn't think anything is too off. But this is the first time that like the red flags started to get raised. He started to be like, maybe something isn't really as it seems, because if this guy's really making all this money, this should be no big deal for him. You know, he's really like acting like me withdrawing $700 is the end of the world. Anyways, he gets his car fixed and he ends up going down to his hometown like a week later, and he's talking to his dad about everything going on, about work and whatnot. And he starts telling his dad about this Dennis guy and, you know, how he's getting 5% a day. He's already 3x'd his money, blah, 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 blah. And his dad immediately points out like, yeah, that's definitely too good to be true and something suspect. I would make sure that everything is what he's saying it is, because that's not possible. His dad just had more experience. It wasn't even like his dad was a stock trader or anything. Just over the years of like having a 401k, he realized that there was absolutely no way that this kid was telling the truth. But Tony ends up getting like super defensive of Dennis, you know, saying that he's not stupid enough to get scammed. This guy's a genius. His dad's just jealous because, you know, he never was in a position to make all this money. He's getting really, really defensive about the fact that his dad is even insinuating he could get scammed. And listen, dude, I understand getting defensive, like not wanting to admit that somebody pulled one over on you. But if your dad is honestly just telling you like this doesn't seem right, that's definitely not the worst thing in the world, okay? Like, it's okay. You can admit that you were dumb to your dad. I promise you he's seen you do stupider things. If he's your dad, he's watched you crap your pants. That's a pretty stupid thing to do. And honestly, it's not even that embarrassing to be getting scammed in these types of situations. Like, Bernie Madoff literally stole billions of dollars from millionaires that knew what they were talking about with money. It's not like it's that bad. Like, okay, obviously it's not good. You should stop it once you realize you're getting scammed. But it's not like you're an idiot that can never be redeemed again. This happens to people. But at that point, you know, he gets defensive, he leaves his parents' house, but the wheels are turning, and he decides that when he gets back to college, he's gonna have to ask Dennis what's going on, seeing the accounts, how it works, just like make sure everything is actually doing what he says it. And he texts him and kind of like starts asking questions, and Dennis is just super dismissive of it. He's like, bro, I'm super busy right now, dude. I've got a lot going on. I really don't have time for this. You have time to take his money. You don't have time to show him that your money is safe, though. You know, he just starts like being really weird. And before this, he's been incredibly nice, super responsive. But now that he's asking questions, I'm not cool with that anymore. And he ends up like sending another text kind of being like, I need you to give me a date on when you're going to show me everything. You being busy doesn't matter. I have to see everything. And he never ever got a reply again, dude. It was as if, you know, the guy just blocked everybody. So he tells his friends that are still at the school that had also given him money and told him about the guy in the first place. And obviously they start kind of freaking out, realizing that they might have also been scammed, and they had given a lot more money than Tony did. So they're kind of like, oh my God, if this guy's a scammer, then I might really be screwed here. And they immediately like go to his dorm room to see if anything's going on. Anyways, when they go over and they knock on the apartment door, nobody answers, so they start knocking harder, and one of Dennis's roommate kind of like opens the door and is kind of confused, and obviously the guys start asking for Dennis, and the confusion increases even more. And he kind of explains that, like, Dennis had literally, like, just left. He had packed up all of his stuff, said that he was dropping out of school and going back home, and then just, like, dipped with all of his stuff. He had literally, like, moved out in a hurry. Once he realized that this guy wasn't gonna let it slide and, like, was gonna demand to actually see everything, he knew the game was up, so he just dipped, bro. Literally just cut his losses and dipped. All in all, I guess amongst everybody that he had like scammed, he ended up getting like $30,000. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money. But I feel like that's not like drop out of college, have to be on the run for a while, have to leave your life behind and like screw over all your friends' money. You know, definitely not the brightest scammer to also scam people that know who you are, like your full legal name and everything too. Oh, yeah, they'll never find me. I just went back home. Like, bro, you had some of them added on Facebook. Just definitely didn't think this through. And he ended up getting to the airport and getting back home before, like, anyone really knew what was up. And at that point, he was across the country, so they did end up report it to the police. But unless he was, like, dumb enough to come back to the school or come back to the state, like, they kind of were like, yeah, chances are there's not really going to be too much done about it. Which is super wild to me, bro. Like, whatever. He's just went home, man. He's just vibing. What's crazier, though, is that it's not like this guy just did all that and then disappeared. He had the balls to actually reach out a few months later and try to, like, explain what had happened to everybody. Obviously, everyone knew what had happened, but he came up with the excuse that he had actually been investing it the entire time. He had just made some bad investments and lost it all and didn't know how to tell them. And, you know, a couple of the people who were, like, kind of trying to at least hear him out ended up saying, if that's true, then, like, send us the transactions of your bad trades. Like, send us you losing the money. And at that point, he said, like, he was too embarrassed to log back into the account and he just wasn't going to be able to do that. So obviously at that point, everyone's like, nah, he had just taken the money and spent it from the very beginning. He had never even tried to invest it, bro. Honestly, he probably didn't even have a brokerage account. It was just in his bank account. He's like, whatever, I'm just doing my thing. Even then, bro, if you had made bad investments, there would still have been something left, like just a little bit of something, unless you literally, like, had purposely done a strategy that makes you lose all of your money if you mess up. You would have been able to recoup some value unless you're like an idiot. So obviously that was just cap. But surprisingly, like, nothing ever really came of it. No one ever really hunted him down because he had spent like 30 grand spread out against a bunch of people. Nobody really wanted to, like, chase him down states away and go through all the hassle for, you know, the 2-3 grand that they had given him. So honestly, the dude kind of got away with it, which is wild to me, bro. Like, he still hasn't ever been back to that state, and he probably shouldn't go back there because it's still in the reports there. But yeah, this dude basically, like, did a little Ponzi scheme on the people that he went to college with, and then when he got caught, just cut his losses and moved home. Hey, mom, sorry that I had to drop out of college. You wouldn't understand. I tried to run a Ponzi scheme. You know, you've ever done that before? And they're like, no, I've never done that before. Ever. Well, maybe you should. It's a lot of fun. Like, come on, dude. I also love that he said he made bad investments. You know, usually that would be like screenshots of him picking a bad, like, stock right before it crashes. He probably just invested it in cocaine, let's be honest here. He was like, you know, I'm gonna invest it in having a good time so that way I can think better about what to invest in tomorrow. But the one positive about this, though, is that Tony did end up learning about investing after it. Like, after he got scammed, he decided he didn't want to get scammed again, so he just learned about it. Which is honestly what I can say to a lot of you guys. Like, I don't get a lot of comments. I do see some, though, like, oh, how do I make money? How do I do this? I'll tell you this, bro. Learn it yourself. Don't just trust somebody that's telling you stuff that's too good to be true. And even then, be realistic with what people are telling you, bro. You're never going to be able to turn $1,000 into $3 million in 2 years by, like, Forex trading. Anyone that's telling you that you're going to be able to just print money out of thin air with absolutely no hard work or anything is just lying to you. So be careful, don't get scammed, especially if it's somebody that's willing to just, like, I don't know, drop out of college, waste tens of thousands of dollars and leave. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of the video, and as always, if you don't know what to comment, go ahead and comment the word turd, which is what I did to this guy who griefed me. He blew up my cargo. It's so sad. Anyways, guys, other than that, I did end up putting a few of my older story times up on Spotify because I had been getting comments saying that you guys wanted them up on there. So if you want to check those out, I ended up putting a link to it in the description, so go check that out. And also in the description is a link to the merch, which is pretty fantastic. You should go cop it if you haven't yet. And last but certainly not least, if you use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout, you get yourself a hefty discount. Helps me out, helps you out, everyone's a winner. But yeah, on that note, that's everything I got to plug. Thank you so much to everybody who watches the videos, notification, has ever liked, commented, all that good stuff. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see you guys all next time with another video. I'm out. Peace. Ba-da-ba-ba. McDonald's. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a story time for y'all that was sent in to the Instagram about a kid who ended up getting his car stolen by his nemesis's dad, which, you know, is taking the high school beef thing a little bit too far. Defending your kid, I understand. Committing a felony, grand theft auto, ooh, I'm not too sure if I can understand where you're coming from on that one. Regardless, it should be a pretty fun video, and be sure to press the like button, or no joke, no scam, your car's gonna get stolen by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The sun's down and I'm feeling it right, so tell me, little mama, what you doing tonight? You know I'm trying to hit it, I'm the being.
Alright, so as I said, this is a subscriber story, and for the reasons of this video, I'm going to change the name. The main character, we're going to name him Zach, and Zach was a pretty good kid. I wouldn't say he was the type of person to regularly be committing felonies and other serious crimes, so, you know, I have to give him some credit. Holding back off committing grand theft auto is apparently pretty difficult. But, you know, as much as Zach is not the type of kid to go out there and commit a felony and spend the rest of his life in prison, I guess there were some kids in the area that just didn't really get that memo. Oh yeah, I'm totally down for committing crimes for pointless high school beef. That's like half the point. What's the point of being a high schooler if you're not gonna go out of your way to do stupid things that could ruin your life forever? Don't get it wrong, you know, I understand that sometimes beefs can happen, sometimes you're not gonna like somebody, but that being said, it's probably just never a good idea to go around committing felonies to get back at your enemy, bro. Cause, you know, don't take this the wrong way, but I highly doubt the cops are gonna like that excuse. Well, you see, officer, the bank robbery I committed wasn't actually for me. It was to piss off the owner, Jimmy. Went to high school with the guy. Anyways, Zach, for whatever reason, had mega beef for this kid that we're gonna call Andy for the rest of the video, and it was one of those situations where, like, they just absolutely hated each other, and they weren't even really sure where it came from. Like, they had just hated each other for so long at this point, since, like, first grade, that they couldn't remember the event that made them hate each other, but, you know, they were worst enemies. And Andy hated Zach back, even more than Zach hated Andy. Like, these two guys hated each other. And it wasn't bizarre for, like, the hatred to just reach irrational, crazy levels that everybody else around them was very uncomfortable with. One time, Zach would skate a little bit, was, like, skating from the school to the car in the parking lot where he was going to get a ride home from, because he couldn't drive yet at the time, and for whatever reason, Andy, like, checked him off of the skateboard with a bunch of power and ended up breaking his wrist. Obviously, that takes things to a new level. That's a good way to hate someone, but Andy pushing him off the skateboard and breaking his wrist was just revenge for when Zach stole his girlfriend, but that was revenge for when Andy ended up, you know, bullying his little brother to the point where he had to change schools, and then that was revenge for da-da-da-da. You guys get the idea. These two people did not like each other and were just going back and forth being awful to one another. Andy and Zach were basically the equivalent of, like, Heat Miser and Snow Miser from that one Christmas movie where, you know, sure, we might go to the same place, we might have the same mom, but I hate you and I'm gonna make your life miserable. Anyways, y'all get the idea. These two guys hated each other. They both had good reasons to hate each other, so for that reason, whatever, you know, I'll let it slide. It's kind of weird to have somebody with beef that hard that you don't remember, but whatever. It's the kind of rivalry that created a Bond villain, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if 15 years from now we ended up with Andy, like, on an island somewhere with a missile silo, giving this speech to Zach about how, if you had simply let me bully you more in high school, so maybe I would have never nuked the planet. Anyways, Bond villains aside, I guess getting a car at their school was a huge deal, you know? Like, obviously, whenever you get a car and you're in high school, it's a big deal. You feel like on top of the world. But maybe the rest of your school doesn't care so much. For whatever reason, I guess this school that they went to, people who got cars were instantly, like, superstars. The best way to get popular as fast as humanly possible was to get an automobile, bro. It could have been a Model T, it could have been a Ferrari, it didn't matter. Just having a car made you one of the coolest kids in school. And honestly, there weren't a lot of kids who had cars, that's why it was so cool. And for whatever reason, I guess one weekend, Zach ends up getting a car with all the money he had been working for. He had been taking up odd minimum wage jobs in the summer, you know, he had been working since he was 14 to be able to get this car. So he buys it, and the same weekend that he gets gets his car, I guess Andy's parents went out and bought him an incredibly nice car because he had rich parents that bought him anything he wanted. And normally it'd be like, ah, damn, 2 people got cars this weekend, everybody just get over it. But for whatever reason, Andy was very upset that the car his mommy and daddy bought him would be sharing a parking lot with somebody else on the same day. You know how the kids with rich parents who get them anything are, like, everything has to go their way and be their thing, like, otherwise they're gonna throw a temper tantrum. Yeah, that was kind of the situation going on here. And I guess he was just so upset that somebody else had gotten a car on his weekend that he ended up reaching out to Zach on Instagram with some crazy demands. I guess Zach had been taking a nap and he woke up to his phone just kind of buzzing like crazy, and he checks and it's Andy basically saying that Zach isn't allowed to drive to school for a week in his new car because Andy wants all the attention on him for a bit. And honestly, Zach's like, wow, that sucks. You want all the attention on you? That's chill. I'm tired of asking for rides and having to take the bus. I just worked for a couple years to get a car. So no, Andy, I don't really care that you want all the attention. I'm going to drive my car to school. And, you know, he tells Andy no, which I think is fair. No, I'm not going to take my car that I just paid for to school because you don't want me to. And Andy did not like that. No. Andy was very upset, bro. You would have thought somebody just called his mom a whore in a Halo game. Anyway, Zach tells Andy no. I'm going to park my car in the parking lot. There's nothing you can do about it. He doesn't like that. And so the Instagram DMs that were like, please don't drive your car here, otherwise we're going to have problems, instantly start becoming threats, dude. But not like concrete threats, you know. It's obviously Andy didn't actually know what he was going to do, so he just starts hitting him with the, if you drive your car to school, you're going to regret it. I'm going to make your life miserable. And obviously not a fan of being threatened. Zach, when he starts saying that, is like, all right, well, what is that supposed to mean? How am I going to regret it, huh? You're going to make me regret driving my car to school? And at this point, he kind of starts giving Andy attitude back, which I don't blame him for, bro. Nobody likes to be threatened, especially by somebody that's just not threatening. So eventually, he gets attitude. He's giving him crap. He has no good answers. So he just tells Andy, look, I'm driving to school, and if anything happens to my car, you're an idiot because you just told me that you were going to be the one to do it. And as soon as he points out that, like, it's probably not a good look for Andy to have threatened the person in a place where there's going to be screenshots and evidence, Andy goes ahead and just unsends everything that he had sent so far. He instantly realizes, like, ah, crap, I just threatened something was going to happen to his car if he drove it here, so now I've got to just get rid of the messages. So as he's unsending everything, Zach gets a screenshot. He doesn't get the most, like, incriminating message of, like, you're going to regret it, or, like, I can't say what's going to happen, but something will. Like, those types of messages got taken out. But what he does screenshot definitely does give the vibe of, like, this kid trying to threaten him into not parking his car in the school parking lot. What really blows my mind is that, like, either of them were this upset about it, bro. Don't take it the wrong way, but I'm sure the parking lot is big enough for the both of you, even though we live in America, even if you are pretty chunky. Like, Andy, alright, hypothetically, congratulations, your parents bought you a car or whatever, they're spoiling you for life, you're never gonna have a good work ethic. That being said, maybe you could just talk to this Zach kid and be like, hey, park on the other side of the parking lot or something. I don't know, maybe anything other than threatening to make their car go missing or, like, have problems is a good idea, especially because I feel like it's a pretty large commitment to be like, yeah, someone's gonna commit Grand Theft Auto in a felony just so I will be the only person with a new car in the parking lot this week. And let's be realistic, Zach had worked hard to buy his car with his minimum wage job for years. You got a car bought by rich parents. I'm sure you even had the cooler car, Andy. Let's keep it $150. I highly doubt that Zach over here, saving all of his money from pushing grocery carts, was able to buy a Ferrari compared to your rich lawyer dad. And trust me, I did push carts for a while, so I know for a fact you weren't getting a cool car, bro. My car was pretty momish. Whatever though, he just blows it off, assumes that Andy was getting really over emotional. So the day comes and he drives to school just like he said he would. He pulls into the parking lot, he gets out, he's not trying to make a scene, he's not trying to have people crowded around him, he just wants to go to school. So he's on his way across the parking lot and there's like a group of people crowded around Andy's car because it was a cool car and it's new and he loved the attention. He wasn't just trying to park and go inside. He wanted everybody and their mom to be like, whoa, bro, sick car. Yo, dude, that's gnarly. Whoa, oh, yeah. And I just don't really understand Andy's thought process here. Everyone knows your parents bought that for you, bro. Do you really think anybody is like, nah, a high schooler got the $75,000 for this car? You know, like, I just don't
Flexing a car in high school ain't that sick because we all know that you didn't pay for it. Oh, my mom and dad have a lot of money. They buy me stuff that is stupid and I should not have, and I will crash it. Anyways, as Zach is walking by the group of people kind of crowded around Andy's car, they start pressing him a little bit, being like, oh, did you drive to school? Did you drive here? We told you not to drive here, bro. You're gonna regret it. And Zach just thinks they're trying to look cool in front of all the people crowded around the car, so he blows past him and starts walking, and that's when Andy yells out, I'm gonna regret it. But he didn't say he said Zach. But Zach, oh, you're gonna regret it. Sorry, I was reading the email a little bit. My bad. Anyways, he's like, you know what, I'm not afraid of these dudes, I'm just over it, and he goes into school, which probably when someone starts threatening your car when it's there, you might want to stick around and figure out what they're saying, but hey man, bygones are bygones, mistakes happen. It's alright now, you know never to let your car get stolen again by a bunch of 16-year-olds. And all day, everything's fine, he gets a couple compliments on his car, people asking him if it's his, how it's been going, everybody's being pretty chill about it because it was a big deal at their school, but he's just kind of keeping his head down, minding his own business, and all day, he's super excited to get out of school, get back to the car, and go drive around. Obviously, it's new. He had just gotten it. Yeah, no one wants to be locked up in school all day when they could be out driving around their brand new car they just got. Let's be honest. School already sucks, but it's even harder once you have a car. Taking a day off and, driving around is awesome. Having a car and being in high school is a lot like being a dog and having your leash taken off outside. You shouldn't make a break for it and run because your owner's gonna get mad, but you really want to do it anyways. I'm gonna be honest, I had way too much freedom once I got my car in high school, bro. I got my car and my attendance rate started going down. I just was like, I'm gonna go to anywhere. Usually there's too much freedom involved once you can go anywhere, especially for stupid small brains like mine. Who came up with this idea and expected people not to be ditching school, though? It's a miracle that not everyone with a car never comes. We're just gonna throw you guys in a building with 1,600 strangers that might bully you or might not. You might get along, there's a good chance you won't. Good luck, have fun, enjoy it for 12 years. Oh, and by the way, we tell you not to leave, but there's gonna be 2,000 of you, so if any of you leave, we actually won't notice as well. It's honestly a miracle that more kids aren't skipping school. So whatever, he's just sitting there all day, sitting on his thumbs, ready to go out, get in his car, and go drive around, obviously, as you would be. All y'all are gonna get a car one day and be like, all of a sudden, driving around the freeway doesn't sound that bad, because it's your car and you're doing it. Anyways, before I get more off track, the school day ends up ending, and Zach goes out to the parking lot to find his car and go home. So at first, he's like, dang it, bro, I park in the parking lot at school for the first time and I forget where I park. So he's walking around the parking lot looking for it and he can't find his car. And he spends about 20 minutes just kind of walking around the parking lot. It wasn't an enormous parking lot or anything, and as he's walking around, he's like, oh my god, I can't figure out where this car is. And suddenly it hits him. He's been walking around the parking lot for 20 minutes without even as much of a glimpse of his car, and Andy had been telling him that he was going to regret it and his car was going to disappear and everything else. And yeah, you pretty quickly puts two and two together that for whatever reason and for however reason, Andy had something to do with his car going missing while he was at school during the day. And obviously he starts freaking out, bro, thinking he has the worst luck of all time. On the first day of you taking your car to school, bro, it gets stolen out of the parking lot. What a bizarre place for a criminal to go and just start stealing stuff. That's why you had to have been somebody at school, right? Could you just imagine? All right, Tony, as we know, Grand Theft Auto is one of our favorite crimes. Let's go to the local high school and steal a student's car. Obviously, in the midst of freaking out, he calls his parents instead of the police first because he doesn't really know what to do or if it's stolen or what's going on. So he calls his parents and he's talking to his mom and he's like, Mom, my car's gone. Mom, my car's gone. And his mom's like, all right, well, I'm going to give the phone to your dad because he'll know what to do. And his dad just goes into total dad mode and starts telling him what to do and all this. And finally, he's like, son, why did you call me instead of the police if your car is missing? I'm at work. What do you want me to do about it? So at that point, he kind of realizes oh, yeah, my car is gone. It's out of here. This isn't, something that my mom and dad can fix, bro. I understand that moms have a radar for finding things that are lost, but somebody stealing your car is probably a little bit out of her wheelhouse, bro. Unless the scrapbooking that she does is a little bit intense and involving, finding hidden artifacts. So his dad tells him to register his car as stolen and call the cops so that way they can start looking for it. So he hangs up with his dad, and at that moment, before he can even dial the cop's phone number, in comes Andy's car to the parking lot. And at this point, the parking lot is basically basically emptied out. There's a couple of teachers' cars that are still there, but like for the most part, the students have gone home. And Andy's car pulls up to Zach all slow, and he like slowly rolls down the window the way they do in the movies when someone's just about to be a douche, you know? It was like this guy had just watched a bunch of Adam Sandler movies as a kid and related to the guy that like bullied everyone and nobody liked. That was who he wanted to be for some reason. And he starts teasing Zach, being like, "Where's your car? Where's your car?" And at that point, he had an idea that for some reason Andy had been behind his car going missing, but now he knew for sure. Like, what are the odds that you come back to school, pull up to me, and start asking me where my car is? You know what I mean? Unless you'd had something to do with it going missing. So Zach's not in the mood for playing games. You know, Andy's trying to tease him, make fun of him, like, haha, where's your car? And he's having none of it. So he looks at Andy and he says, "You have 30 seconds to tell me where my car is or I'm calling the cops. Do you understand? I know you had something to do with it. They have security cameras in the school. You tell me now or I call the police." And as soon as he mentions the police, calling the cops, and any of that, bro, Andy's face goes from like this cocky smirk of like, haha, I have your car, to no, dude, don't call the cops, don't call the cops, don't call the cops. I can get the car for you. I can get the car for you. And yeah, his whole demeanor changed, bro. He went from I'm tough to I'm scared real quick. So instantly Zach is like, "Where's my car?" And Andy starts explaining that he had his dad come earlier. I guess his dad had like a flatbed trailer and load the car onto the trailer while they were in school and take it to Andy's house because he wanted to be the kid with the car after school. And at that point, Zach's like, "So let me get this straight. You're such a little twat that needs, you know, all the attention on you that you had your dad come steal my car so that way I would have to walk home because you wanted attention in the parking lot after school." And Andy was basically like, "Well, when you put it that way, yeah, when you put it that way, it sounds stupid, but there's no other way to put it, Andy. That's literally what you did. Like, how else do you want to say the facts?" So obviously at that point, Zach's like, "I'm calling the cops. I've had enough of this. Your dad's going to jail. You stole my car. Like, I'm not playing games." And Andy is like, No. Please don't call the cops. Please don't call the cops." And he starts explaining to Zach, and obviously this is why I had to change the names, that his dad had gotten like a DUI 2 weeks earlier, you know? And if he had stolen a car and got caught doing it, he was going to go to jail for a really long time. And listen, man, that's not something very refreshing to hear. By the way, the person who stole your car, put it on a flatbed, and drove it across town to my house also drives drunk. That isn't more refreshing, but Zach is kind of like, well, crap, I really don't want to send this kid's dad to jail forever. So he talks to Andy and he's like, "Fine, I'm getting in your car, we're going to my house, and you're going to give me my car back, you're going to give me the keys, and you're going to give me $2,000 in cash, or I'm telling the police." And Andy's like, "Bro, we're not giving you any money. Are you kidding me? Da-da-da-da-da." And Zach at that point is like, "Look, I can tell the cops, bro. Your dad stole my car." Imagine getting involved in that, dude. Like, how do you even get involved in that as a dad? I'm not a dad. I don't have a kid. That being said, if my future kid ever comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, will you commit Grand Theft Auto so that way I can be the cool kid in school?" I'll be like, "Son, I play the game. I don't do it in real life." Anyways, Andy reluctantly agrees, only because his hands are tied here. His options are either taking him to his house and giving him his car, or his dad goes to jail, you know? So he hops in the car, and on the way, Andy is dead silent. Like, this kid that's usually chirping, talking all this crap is quiet now. And you can really tell what someone's actually like when they're in a crappy situation. If, you know, the charm, the charisma, the crap talking turns off, it's like, oh, you know you messed up, buddy. He was well aware of the fact that, like, this was arguably the biggest screw up of all time. And Zach just kept kind of mentioning, like, you know, he was really lucky that he didn't send him to jail, and, like, you know, his dad better be okay with giving him the money, da-da-da-da-da. Not even necessarily because he wanted to send everyone to jail. Obviously, no one wants to do that. But to mess with him and scare him and be like, yeah, you see, this ain't that funny, bro. Like, nobody else is giggling. Congratulations, you stole my car. Now look what you got yourself into. So whatever, after a very awkward car ride, they pull up to the house, and when they pull up, Andy's dad is, like, waiting for them in the driveway. And he gets out and he's like, "Oh, so you must be Zach, the kid that tries to steal my kid's shine, huh?" And Zach is, you know, having none of this and is like, "Yeah, and you must be the old man that steals kids' cars. Where's my car?" And when he says it like that, the dad is kind of like, oh, why you so angry? Like, I don't know. Why do you think he's so mad, bro? You came into the parking lot where all the kids park their cars, lifted it up on a flatbed and left. Did you expect him to be like high-fiving you, calling you a criminal genius for doing the easiest crime of all time? Literally the equivalent of stealing candy from a baby, but like the car version? So whatever, the dad is kind of like asking him to calm down, you know, hey, we don't want any trouble here, we don't want to get the police involved. And Zach's like, yeah, you should have thought about that before you stole my car. Totally reasonable, bro. If you didn't want me to call the cops and you potentially to go to jail, then maybe you should have thought about that before you went around stealing people's cars. So whatever, the dad gives him his car keys and he's like, all right, okay, no trouble, no trouble. And he's like, and I want my $2,000. And the dad is like, look, your car back is more than enough. And at that point, you know, he's just realizing that this dad doesn't understand what's going on. And he realizes the dad's just not going to give him the money. So he's like, all right, fine. At least I get my car back. But he looks at the dad before he leaves. He looks at Andy and he's like, I want you guys to just stop messing with me, bro. Like, stop it. You guys stole my car, okay? I get it. You guys don't like me driving to school. I'm still going to drive to school. And you're going to let me and you're going to leave me alone. Because now I know that you guys stole my car. Like, you guys have to leave me alone at the bare minimum. Fine. And, you know, the dad is kind of like looking at him thinking for a bit. And obviously, the fact that he had to think about it shows that this dude's probably got 5 brain cells combined. This kid's nice enough to not report you to the police for stealing his car. And you're gonna, like, you know, maybe encourage your son to keep messing with him? No, you make him back off, bro. To be fair, I would never be in a situation where I was stealing 16-year-old cars in the first place. This is like the Fast and Furious Little Tykes version, you know? They're robbing semi-trucks for everything on the back of it to sell it for cash. This guy just goes around stealing like Power Wheels from children, all that good stuff, you know how it is. Finally, though, the dad is like, all right, Andy, I want you and your friends to leave him alone, you know? He's obviously proven that, like, he deserves respect, even if we don't see eye to eye. Like, deserves respect, bro? What do you mean? Because he had a backbone about you stealing his car, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you deserve respect. Before, nah, we were going to keep stealing your vehicle. But now that you've shown up and potentially could send me to jail, now I respect you. So, whatever. After that very weird encounter, he just got back in his car and went home. He gets home a little bit late, obviously, and his parents are like, oh, you know, what happened? And he had just kind of told them that he had been, like, driving around and that, you know, he had just taken a little bit of time to get home because he didn't want to tell his parents about what happened because obviously at that point they'd be like, yeah, you're not driving to school anymore, buckaroo. So he kept it a secret. In retrospect, he says in the email that he probably should have told his parents, and I would agree. I feel like car theft is one of those things you probably shouldn't be handling on your own at 16, but hey, what do I know, bro? I've done dumb stuff too. I really do just want to know what was going through that guy's head to get that involved in some, like, high school beef, bruh. The wildest part is that, like, the Andy kid and his friends really did leave the dude alone. I know you're thinking, well, obviously he had to. There was a felony committed, but you gotta remember here, guys, that this is a high school bully. Usually they are not the sharpest tools in the shed, so the fact that he could put down the crayon, stop eating him for a second long enough to realize he should leave him alone, hey, I gotta give the guy a little bit of credit. I guess he's got more brain cells than I thought he did. Moral of the story, don't steal people's cars. It's really not that deep, guys, unless you're Dominic Toretto, okay? Anyways, on that note, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to press the like button and comment down below. Come on, I just entertained you for 23 minutes. The least you could do is smack a like button and leave me a comment. Other than that, if you guys want to support the channel, you can check out a link to the 2 million subscriber merch that is going to be down below in the description. Along with that, if you enjoyed the intro song, a link to that can be found down there as well. And I actually have a podcast called The Scuffed Cast, which can also be found in the description. Wow, it's so many treasures down there. Other than that, if you are in the market for some energy drinks to keep you gaming and you're going to get yourself some G Fuel, the best energy drink for gaming, go ahead and use code SCRUBBY at checkout for a little bit of a discount. Helps me out, helps you out. Let's scratch each other's backs here. You know what I mean. All right, I think that's everything that I've got to plug. Big thank you to everyone who's subscribed with notifications on. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're not, you might as well. So that way you never miss another upload here on the channel. I basically tell story times every day and, well, every other day. Sorry, guys. The longer ones take more time. But yeah, if you're new around here, definitely subscribe. I'm gonna go start a car stealing ring around a high school so I can crush everyone's dreams as soon as they get their first car. If anyone needs me, you know where I'll be. Yeah, on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see you guys all next time with another video. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. As you can tell, it's really long. I was going through my Instagram DMs today, just looking, and I realized I have a metric crap ton of stories from you guys that aren't long enough to be in their own video. So instead, I figured I would put a bunch of good ones that I found that were a little bit short into one video, make it like an hour-long special, and yeah. If you guys like this idea, comment below, sorry, if you want more of them. And if you have story ideas, my Instagram is just at Scrubby. Feel free to send them in. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into some subscriber stories.
The sun's down and I'm feeling it right, so tell me, little mama, what you doing tonight? You know I'm trying to hit it, I'm not being polite.
Alright, so this first one is about a crazy neighbor. Let's go. So there was this older lady that lived in this guy's neighborhood, and she was one of those Karens in the HOA that would like go around the neighborhood and complain about everything she saw. You know, she had her little ruler, and if your grass was 3 centimeters overgrown, she was calling the police. She was just a nuisance, and the person who sent in this story's dad was actually the president of the HOA, and because he was the president, he was always getting emails from this Karen complaining about every little thing that was ever wrong in the neighborhood, talking about how bad his dad was at running it and how, like, you know, he should be ashamed of himself because the HOA president shouldn't let grass get too long. I don't know if she knew that, like, sometimes grass just grows in between it getting mowed, but, you know, she was trying her best. So one day, as this guy and his mom are coming home from school, they start kind of pulling into the driveway. And as they're pulling into the driveway, this Karen lady starts like walking into their front yard and kind of confronting them. So the mom is like, "What are you doing on my property? Please get off my driveway," which is a pretty reasonable response to like somebody just coming into the area and messing with you. I'm just saying, if somebody comes to my house and started beef, yeah, I would probably be like, "Get off my property." Anyways, this lady decides that the proper response to being asked to leave, isn't to, you know, leave or like simply go away. She instead goes to the sidewalk and says, "Well, now I'm on public property, so you can't make me leave," and is just kind of sitting there staring at him, dude. She's not even arguing with him, she's just sitting there, and obviously this guy's mom is like starting to get frustrated because it's basically the adult definition of "I'm not touching you." You know, when you were trying to torture like your little siblings when they were younger and you would just be like, "I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you." That's literally what this grown woman is doing with another grown woman. And to make it even worse, the reason everybody was so pissed too, especially his mom, is this wasn't the first time she had been snooping. There was one other time before all this where she had sent like her husband into the backyard to go snooping. Anyways, the mom and this lady are kind of going back and forth as she's standing at the bottom of the sidewalk. She just has an obsession with them. She sent her husband in James Bond style to spy on their backyard. Here she is doing the adult version of "I'm not touching you" to argue with them. And finally, after a little bit of arguing, she walks away. I don't know if she realized that like there wasn't actually gonna prove anything. Being the lady standing on the sidewalk yelling at a homeowner just makes you look crazy to everyone driving by. And they think that's the end of it. They're like, "My goodness, this lady sent her husband over here. She went over here. Finally, maybe they'll just leave us alone now." So the kid and his mom go inside, and he's got soccer practice in a bit, so he starts to get ready for soccer practice just like every other day. You know, after your neighbor has already yelled at your mom once, you're not like getting ready for the sequel later. You're just kind of expecting the rest of the day to go normally. At least I would be. So he gets in the car, they go to soccer practice, and he gets back in the car after soccer practice, and his mom is like, "I've got to let you know something crazy happened, and I just like don't think you're gonna believe it." And obviously he's like, "What happened?" You know, expecting to hear some more tales about how this lady had been like yelling at his mom more or arguing with his dad. Nope. Apparently this Karen had gone home after the argument and snapped and ended up game-ending her husband, bro. Yeah, that's right. She had picked up the 9 and got to plapping, if you get what I'm saying. And then after that, she proceeded to blap herself in the thigh so she could tell the police when they came that it was in self-defense, dude. That's right. Moments after arguing with this dude's mom and like, I'm not touching you, she yeeted her husband out of existence and then tried to like blame it on him, dude. So obviously that's not what you're expecting whenever you get in the car after soccer practice, just some casual my neighbor committed murder. Definitely not something you're like ever expecting. And he comes home to just rows and rows of cop cars, fire trucks, basically every emergency response vehicle known to man. And there's like news stations out there interviewing everybody. Anyways, at this point, the ambulance takes the husband to the hospital to try to save him. At that point, the only thing everybody knows, though, is he has been shot 7 times. 7, okay? So they're pretty sure that their Karen neighbor just committed murder on her husband, bro. They're interviewing everybody. His dad gets interviewed on the news about it. But the plot twist of all of this is somehow, miraculously, the Karen husband survives. She's not a murderer. She's just an attempted murderer, right? Like, oh my goodness, wow, look at that. Titles can change. And you would think after getting shot 7 times by your wife, you're gonna like file divorce, maybe decide to, send her to jail or whatever. The husband decides not to press charges and she gets out of jail after a month. What in the name of toxic relationship is going on here, bro? I don't care if we're married. I don't care if I have your name tattooed on me. You shoot me 7 times where it's over. It's just done. So the lady gets out of jail after a month, bro. And the neighborhood is obviously like scared of her because if she can do that to her husband, she'd have no problem doing that to the president of the HOA. But she was so embarrassed about it that she just ended up moving out, which like honestly, embarrassment seems like the least likely problem. Like, man, honey, I just can't believe that all these people think I'm a jerk because I shot you 7 times. I think we need to move. It's probably because you are a jerk. Did you ever think about that one? Realistically, I think the moral of that one is my neighbor wasn't as crazy as I expected, bro. Karen was nuts, but at least I never had to worry about her game ending me, bro. All right, guys, this next story time is one somebody sent in to me about a kid who thought he was a rapper at their school who tried to do a diss track on the teacher in the middle of class, and it went about as good as you think it would be. So I think every school, especially now, has like the kids that swear they're gonna be rappers. Even when I was in high school, we had a couple kids that would like post a few songs on SoundCloud and then start talking about how they're really gonna make it in this industry and leave this crappy city behind and all their haters are gonna regret it. I'm still not really sure what haters most of them were talking about, dude. Like, it's not our fault that you fought the lunch lady and everyone thought you were a jerk for it. Anyways, the person who sent in this story is a senior in high school, and obviously when you're a senior in high school, there's a lot of emphasis on like what you're gonna do next, like it or not. The reality of being a senior in high school means you gotta pick what you're gonna do. You gotta do something else. You don't gotta like go somewhere else. I guess you don't have to do anything productive. You just can't stay there. The high school doesn't want like 20-year-olds hanging out there because they can't figure out what to do. And it's just the teacher's jobs to get you thinking that way. It's not supposed to be super personal. And I guess one day in this class, the teacher was just kind of asking all the students what their plans were after high school. And there was this one kid who we're gonna name Bumpkin for the rest of the story because, I feel like using that as a name. Was swearing that he was gonna be a rapper, dude. Like everybody else was talking about, the jobs they had, the trade schools they were going to, or like a couple kids wanted to be musicians, but they had already, posted songs before and they had already done stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like out of nowhere they were saying they wanted to be a musician. And this Bumpkin guy was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a rapper. Like I'm gonna be the toughest in the game. I'm gonna have a song with Drake by the end of the next year. And obviously all the students were like, yeah, sure. Because I guess this kid's SoundCloud was kind of a meme at school. Like, it was one of those SoundClouds where everybody would just kind of clown on it low-key. He had like 20 followers. His most played song had 2,000 plays. And it was the first time the teacher had heard about it, though. So they start kind of asking, like, oh, well, you're going to get a song with Drake. Wow, do you have a record deal? Like, oh my goodness, you really have a song with one of the biggest artists in the world? That's incredible. And the kid starts like being like, yeah, I don't have have it yet, but like I'm manifesting it. You know what I mean? Like you gotta think positive. Like if you just hold that thought in your head enough, like it's going to come real. And listen, bro, I see this all the time on social media and stuff, like, oh, just manifest your dreams. And I don't think people understand that, like, manifesting your dreams still means that you have to do the work part of it. Like, it doesn't just mean it's magically gonna happen. The idea behind it is you're supposed to think positive, but then, like, still put in all the hard work, right? Like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber, and then do everything in your power to be a YouTuber on top of it. You don't just, like, post a video a month and be like, nah, dog, I'm really manifesting this. It's gonna happen. This guy had, like, 5 songs, all of which, you know, were not very pop, and he didn't have a lot of followers. And he was just convinced that if he thought hard enough, he was gonna get a song with Drake. Like, no connections, no, oh, I'm working on a new project, nothing. He was just literally thinking that if he just put it out into the universe enough, somehow he was going to get a song with the biggest rapper on the planet. So obviously the teacher just does what the teacher has to do and starts kind of pointing out that, like, the kid doesn't actually have a plan and he probably should have a backup plan. But when he says the words backup plan to the kid, dude, he immediately is like, what, you don't believe in me? And the teacher is like, no, I'm just saying, like, your plan seems to rely quite a bit on just stuff happening that, you know, you really can't control. And the kid is like, oh, you don't believe in my rap skills. You're just like everybody else. And the teacher is like, no, that's not what I'm saying. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna rap right now. You want to see what I can do? And the teacher is just kind of sitting there with this blank look on their face because obviously, like, you don't really know what to do in this situation. It's not every day a student says, hi, let me rap at you to show you that I'm going to get a song with Drake through the power of positive thinking. So before the teacher can even answer, immediately they're just like, yeah, what's poppin'? I don't like my teacher. My dreams, he's robbing. I'm Batman on this track, and you know I be stomping. Like, he just started doing stuff like that. I'm sorry if you guys heard my fridge. And obviously, he really is, like, really feeling himself, bro. And it starts okay, I guess. Not really the type of stuff that I think Drake would want you to hop on. Like, it doesn't seem like an artist like that. But hey, no harm, no foul, I guess. Do whatever you want to do. He's kind of just going off. And then it starts to get bad, bro. School is a joke, and I don't do it easy. I like cream soda, water bottle, hydro flask. Like, it just stops rhyming, bro. He went from Dr. Seuss to Dr. Helen Keller writing real quick. Just like random words on the page. Stuff was discombobulated, not even making sense. And at that point, the class just kind of starts laughing at him, right? Because it's like, bro, you went from diss track to dissed real quick. And whenever everybody starts laughing, he starts piping up about how, like, yo, all y'all haters are his motivators, and, like, one day when he makes it, y'all are gonna regret laughing at him now. And I'm gonna be completely honest, dude. I think the story would be even better if you eventually made it. Like, imagine saying that you went to school with, you know, Lil Wayne, and you watched him do a horrible diss track against your teacher. That's way more entertaining than, like, yeah, he was always great. And even then, bro, I'm pretty sure the power of positive thinking is not gonna magically get you a song if you can't even do a diss track about a teacher that is one of your haters. I did air quotes on haters there. I just realized you guys can't see it though. Don't take L's like that, bro. I promise it's just not worth it. Being the laughing stock is not a good time. This next one was sent to me. It's about a kid who almost got kidnapped one time. I really did not know how to make this into its own video, but it was pretty scary. I wouldn't say good, because that's not good, but it was a good read. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so this little guy was playing on the playground one time at one of those, like, after school things where it's basically a bunch of teenagers paid to watch all the elementary schoolers after school. And obviously, because it's a bunch of high schoolers watching the kids, they're not paying super close attention. And they were at this playground that was right next to the elementary school, and I guess while they were playing, there was this guy kind of watching them play that started gesturing over to this kid. And this kid at the time was, like, in kindergarten kindergarten. He was 5, so really, really young, and I guess nobody had sat down and given him the stranger danger talk. He says in this message he was an absolute moron, but for some reason, he decides that he's gonna go see what this random guy wants, you know? He keeps telling him to come here, so he starts walking over to the guy, and he gets told that his mom had sent him to pick him up and that they were gonna go home. And obviously, this little kid who doesn't know any better is like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he starts walking off with this dude away from the rest of the group towards the rest of the park. And thankfully, because it was after school, the park was pretty busy, and he's holding the guy's hand, and they're kind of walking towards the parking lot. And at this point, he doesn't know anything is wrong, and the only thing he remembers that really made him realize that anything was wrong was that the guy pulled out like a knife in his other hand and like flicked it out as if to kind of let him know like, hey, don't try to make a move for it. And I guess 5-year-old him was smart enough to realize, hey, knives are bad. Like, not smart enough to realize you shouldn't walk off with a stranger from the middle of a playground, but you know, somehow was smart enough to realize that knives are bad. So what he decided to do in his 5-year-old mind was something that his mom had taught him just in case he was ever getting kidnapped, which was to just break away from the dude and run to a woman while screaming mommy. So he like pulls away from the dude's hand, looks around, sees this girl with a stroller, and just starts sprinting to her while yelling mommy, 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 like just over and over and over again to make it seem like he was running towards his mom. And he didn't look back while he was running to her, obviously, but when he got to the woman, he could tell that her eyes were super wide and she was like really worried. And he looked back and the guy was just sprinting away. Like, as soon as the kid he was trying to lead away from the playground started getting people's attention and talking to an adult, he got out of there, which is how you know the dude was definitely up to no good. Call me crazy, but if you were just trying to help take a lost kid home, you don't run away when they find their mom, you weirdo. Regardless, the woman who was pushing the stroller took him back to like the school people, and they didn't really care. Like, they were just teenagers, so they were like, oh, that sucks, that's crazy, thank you. And the mom just didn't feel right, so she ended up like taking the kid home and telling his mom what happened. And apparently after that, he was never allowed to like stay after school in that program thing that was run by teenagers again, which is probably a good idea. You know, if one of the kids that they're in charge of almost gets kidnapped and they're like, accidents happen, then like, no, accidents don't just happen, bro. What are you talking about? You're not allowed to just let little Timmy get kidnapped and call it a day. Y'all are getting paid $7.25 an hour to make sure kids don't get kidnapped, bruh. How weird is it that that's the one thing people are okay like paying really cheap for? Like, oh, we wouldn't want somebody that, you know, knows what they're doing to watch our kids. Let's just take a bunch of 10th graders and pay them dirt cheap wages and expect them to watch our kids all day. Realistically though, I guess this dude ever since then has been crazy paranoid about being kidnapped, and I honestly can't say that I blame him. I feel like once somebody tries to lure you away from a playground with a knife, you become a little bit more aware of your surroundings. Maybe not in a good way. Like, I'm not saying you deserved it, bro. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I can't say I'm surprised that's what you're paranoid about. It makes sense. That's like everyone's biggest fear, I think. Our next story is about a crazy Spanish teacher, which you guys know I can relate to. I've told a story about my crazy Spanish teacher on here before. So this guy says that the craziest teacher he ever had wasn't anybody that was like smacking kids' heads on the whiteboard or anything. It was never like she was a teacher assigning massive amounts of homework. In fact, for the first 90% of the year, she was an absolutely great Spanish teacher. He says that till this day, he still can speak more Spanish than most people, and a lot of that's because of her. The only thing was she got pregnant at the beginning of the year. And there's nothing wrong with that. Congratulations on having the family, you know. The only thing is, by the end of the year, it meant that she was like 8 months pregnant. And usually around that time, it's about time for you to start like taking maternity leave, taking some time off, I think. You know, like it's just a hard time, I'm sure. You're literally, days away from popping a child out of you? I'm sure that's stressful. But because it was close to the end of the year, she was like, nah, I'm riding it out. And because of that, she was just having what pregnant women have,
have, which is a lot of hormonal mood swings. I'm not saying that to try to be mean or like, oh, she was having mood swings. It's just a fact that when women are pregnant near the end before they give birth, they have a lot of crazy hormones. And this is when she went from like a Spanish teacher to just one of the most confusing classrooms you've ever been in. Her mood swings would be so confusing that she would like open the class by screaming at everybody for spelling a word wrong on the test that she had taught them and how they were never going to be able to learn Spanish, like screaming at them. And then she would transition into laughing because somebody would like say something funny in return to her being mad at their spelling, and she would be hysterically laughing, like tears falling out of her face. And then right after that, she would just start crying because she's so disappointed in the class's grades. And like all of this is within the first 10 minutes of class happening. It just started becoming very, very unpredictable and all over the place. Some would say, El pollo loco. There you go, there's some Spanish for y'all, I'm dropping it in, bilingual scrubby in the chat. And that was pretty normal, just the mood swings and whatnot. But what really got confusing is when she started comparing those mood swings and combining them with like random cravings that would dictate everything. Like once she was writing on the board, teaching some Spanish, teaching you how to conjugate some verbs, all that good stuff that they have to teach you how to do in another language. And out of nowhere, she stops writing and just like staring at the board intensely with her eyes closed. Does that make sense? Like you ever just seen somebody with their eyes closed, but you can tell they're not sleeping, they're like thinking. And all of a sudden she turns around to the class, throws the marker across the room and is like, I want McDonald's. And the whole class, when she turned around and freaked out, was scared that, you know, this lady was about to give birth in the middle of their Spanish class. They were about to meet their new, I don't know what you would call it, your teacher's son, your nephew. Obviously, that's a joke, but you get what I'm saying, bro. I'm sure in Spanish class, they were not prepared for this lady to start giving birth. And all of a sudden, she's just like, I want McDonald's. This lady had gotten a craving for McDonald's so intensely in the middle of her lesson, she had to stop teaching it. And she starts going over to the phone and yelling at him in Spanish, saying that, like, you need to bring me McDonald's, I'm hungry, I have your baby inside me, like, I need McDonald's, I need it now. And I guess everybody knew that, like, her husband was also a teacher at the school, so he obviously couldn't go get McDonald's. And she started crying because of that in the middle of class about how, you know, it was just really unfair that he wouldn't go get her McDonald's. And the entire class is kind of sitting there like, yeah, that is really unfair. Aware of the fact that this dude is definitely not trying to be mean to her. He just can't leave his class in the middle of the day to go get his wife McDonald's. I don't think the boss would really understand that. Yes, Principal Billy, I understand that I left the class unattended and every one of the students ended up starting a small fire, but what you have to understand is my wife wanted McDonald's. The only other time there was something funny about that was a couple days later, similar situation, she froze again, right? And then she went, I want chicken, and just waddled out of the classroom and came back like 5 minutes later with a whole rotisserie chicken and just ate it while teaching Spanish. Honestly, dude, I do have to say, kudos to her for just having the confidence, bro. I'm very grateful that I'm never gonna have to pop a baby out of me. Congratulations if you're a woman. You got a lot to look forward to, apparently. On the bright side, having an excuse to get out of like any room by just saying you want chicken and being able to waddle out does sound pretty sick. I'm not sure if I would be on board with the whole having to push a 9-pound baby out of me thing, but hey, leaving the room is pretty cool for 8 months, I guess. Honestly, I just want to know what she named the kid. Like, did she name him Diablo for the way he made her act? Like, what was the situation here? She probably named him McDonald's in honor of the favorite food of his during his pregnancy or while he was in the tum-tum. All right, ladies and gents, this next one is about how this guy got his worst enemy, which honestly, bro, I love a good villain origin story. You know what I'm saying? So I guess this guy's mom had a company and one of her employees had a son that was around the same age as her son. So obviously, whenever there was like a work event or whatever, they were kind of forced to pretend to get along, you know? Like whenever your parents have a work friend with a kid around your age. Ah, yeah, you know, little Timmy, yep, you guys will love each other. And like obviously sometimes it's pretty chill, you guys get along, but every now and then there's a work friend that you just are not a big fan of. And on this particular instance, they were having like a party at this kid's house, and so his mom's employee's son, came to his house, and it was kind of his duty to like keep him entertained all night, be a good host, all that good stuff. And at first everything was going good. They were eating pizza, vibing, playing some video games, and all of a sudden the kids started getting like really bossy. Go get me pizza, get me this, get me that, I want that controller, like just being like that. And whenever the person who sent me this would be like, hey man, you know, you're kind of being rude, they would do the whole, well, I'm the guest and the guest gets what the guest wants type of thing, which is the most annoying thing in the planet, bro. I don't know if y'all agree, but like whenever somebody starts kind of abusing the fact that you have to be nice to them, it makes me want to just 720 no scope them with a foot to the nose, pow, Conor McGregor style. And this guy's just being a jerk, but whatever. His mom had told him that he had to be a good host and like he had to do it, so this kid's just kind of chugging along, letting him treat him like garbage. And one time he told him to go get a soda, and it had just so happened to be right after the kid had found his Game Boy. And the person who sent me this was a huge Pokemon fan. Like, obviously, I think everybody who grew up in the last, 20 years has been a big Pokemon fan as a kid. And he was playing Pokemon Emerald, which was on the Game Boy Advanced, and he had this, like, Swampert. He had this whole team that he had spent hours and hours playing. He said his save file at the time probably had, like, 70 hours into it of him just grinding Pokemon, so it was something that he had put a lot of time into. And the kid had like opened it and started looking at his Pokemon, and obviously he was like, go get me a soda, and he went to go get it, but he told him not to do anything too crazy to the Pokemon game. So he goes and gets him a soda, and he comes back up, and the kid is like, yo, there's something wrong with your Pokemon game. And so he picks up the Game Boy and goes to look, and he's back at the start of Pokemon Emerald when you're in the back of that moving truck getting off. The start of the game, and he's like, yo, what happened? And he said, well, I restarted the game so I could pick my own Pokemon, and then I couldn't get your save file back. And immediately, the person who sent me this starts freaking out, like yelling at the kid, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? For those of you that don't know why that's a huge deal, if you delete a Pokemon save file, it's gone. There is no getting it back. There's no multiple saves. Once it's gone, it's gone. So while he had gone to get a soda for this kid to drink while he was playing his Game Boy, he had deleted the entire save file. Every one of the Pokemon was gone, all 70 hours of work was gone, all the gym badges, literally everything. So obviously he's upset, and he's like, dude, you deleted my Pokemon file, are you kidding me? And the kid wasn't even apologizing. He was like, well, how was I supposed to know that it wasn't gonna da-da-da-da-da? He's like, why would you delete a file in the first place if you didn't know that it was gonna, like, replace mine? And he's like, well, I'm the guest, so it's not like it matters. And at that point, the kid had had enough, and he just started swinging on the dude who had deleted his Pokemon save. All day, he had been treating him like a slave, making him get stuff for him. Go get me this, go get me that. And in return, he deleted all of his Pokemon, bro. I don't blame you for, like, being pissed. But instead of fighting back or anything, the kid just started crying. So the parents come to investigate, and his mom is like, are you kidding me? You're fighting with the guest? Are you out of your mind? That is so inappropriate. And he's getting in trouble for the fact that this kid deleted his Pokemon, and he like got mad about it. All right, this next one is another classic teacher freak out story. I don't know, these are always really fun to read because I had a bunch of crazy teachers, and it makes me feel better to know that I'm not the only person with teachers where you're like, how did you get a job here? Alright, so this one takes place in this guy's 8th grade year. He went to a pretty small school, so there wasn't like a bunch of students roaming around the class. There were only 3 classes in his grade, like 3 classes of 8th graders, you know what I mean? Anyways, they were in science class, and it was getting to the end of class when the science teacher noticed that somebody had taken the eraser off the whiteboard and like put it on a table near the whiteboard. There's not any markers on the table or anything, like it really was just an eraser sitting on the table, and all he would have had to do to pick it up is just kind of like grab the eraser and set it back on the whiteboard. It wasn't like there was a giant mess, it was literally like somebody had just kind of forgotten the fact that, there was something there. And the teacher is like, alright, which one of you guys left this here? and nobody answers. Instead of anybody being like, oh yeah, that was me, my bad, and going up to move it, like, honestly, the entire class is dead silent. And the person who sent me this says that that's probably because of the fact that, like, they didn't remember doing it. I don't think I would have ever remembered, you know, leaving an eraser on a table when I was in school. I was barely paying enough attention to know what period it was. If you want me to remember where I left the erasers, good luck. But the entire class was silent. So the teacher at that point is like, all right, I've tried playing good cop. I guess you guys want bad cop. And so he leans over his desk and he's like trying to look all intimidating. And, you know, he starts saying stuff like, if you guys don't want to talk to the law is gonna make you talk. Just cringy stuff like that, as if he's been watching nothing but Law and Order reruns on TV and he's looking forward to getting used all of the lingo that Ice-T taught him. So while he's vibing doing all this, he decides that what he's gonna do to get them to break is he says that none of you are leaving this class until you tell me who moved the eraser. I'm not too sure why this dude was so drastically upset at the fact that an eraser had been moved. Like, I don't know why you would want to keep all these kids in class until somebody found it. It's not even like it got stolen. It just moved 2 feet. Is this really worth it? So this also happens to be, in this particular instance, these kids' period right before lunch on a Friday. So obviously, Friday lunches are very important when you're in 8th grade. It's like the best lunch of the week. And this teacher is basically blackmailing them to either, like, admit who moved the eraser, which none of them know who did, nobody remembers, or they're just not going to be allowed to use any of their Friday lunchtime, which would be tragic, dude. Imagine not getting to be like, yo, it's Friday with the boys at lunch. That's really a travesty. Finally, like, after just tearing all this time out of it, 10 minutes out of their lunch just ripped from them, this troublemaker stands up and he admits to leaving the eraser on the desk. You know what I mean? He says, look, you know, man, I'm a troublemaker. I'm constantly out here causing problems in this class, and I'll tell you right now, I did it. I left the eraser there. But for some reason, the teacher is like not satisfied with this. Even though he's already taking 10 minutes out of this kid's lunch, he just refuses to believe that it's this kid who did it. Regardless of him admitting it, regardless of everything, he's like, no. And for the next 45 minutes, he just holds us in class. And he promises, even after he lets him go after that 45 minutes to go to the next class, that, like, he's gonna get him back. And sure enough, at the end of the day, the entire class is brought in again. They're all told to sit down. And for 2 hours after school, he's just holding them in detention, trying to get them to break. And for 2 hours, nobody comes forward except the troublemaker, because genuinely, I don't think these kids knew who moved it at that point. They just really probably moved it at some point in class and forgot to move it back. But for 3 hours, 45 minutes at lunch and 2 hours at the end of the day, they got detention and were just held, the entire class, even after somebody admitted. But the worst part of all of this is the reason he let them go after 2 hours is because his wife was getting home from work. Like, he didn't even figure out who did it. The troublemaker kept admitting it, but he just kept refusing to admit it was that guy, just saying that he had a hunch it wasn't him and that he was just trying to take the fall for the real culprit, as if, yes, the international criminal ring running your school is very hell-bent on moving your erasers. So he never even figured it out. He just wasted 3 hours of their time, and by the time they came back to school on Monday, it was like it never even happened. And what probably happened, bro, is the teacher went home and realized that he was the one that moved the eraser and was like, crap, I can never admit ever that I was actually the person to move it, because these kids would never trust me again. Even though I'm sure giving them 3 hours of detention for something that none of them did already made them not like you, bro. Call me crazy, but I feel like after that detention run, you were already losing your popularity points with all the students. Best of luck, though, G. Alright, guys. This last story of the video is a story about just, like, a weird kid. It's been a long time since I've told one of these, because YouTube demonetizes them now, but this one's pretty funny. So we all know that one kid that is constantly, like, starting fights with people, getting himself into drama, and then, like, acting like the absolute victim whenever that happens. The only difference is usually eventually kids grow out of it. But and this particular story takes place in somebody's 7th grade class with a kid who thought he was a dinosaur and would, like, walk around and at people to get them to stop. So there was this kid that we're gonna call Trevor, like the GTA character, and you know, he was really into dinosaurs. Where this kid lived, it was a situation where everybody from the elementary school went to the same middle school, and from the ages of like first grade until, you know, now, he was just obsessed with dinosaurs to the point where he would act like a dinosaur. He refused to, you know, walk around the class like a normal person. He would like stomp around on his tippy toes, which I know sounds like an oxymoron. He would stomp around on his tippy toes to like look like a dinosaur, and whenever somebody would give him a weird look, he would roar at them like, "Rah!" But on top of that, whenever he wasn't acting like a dinosaur, it wasn't like he was a really nice guy. He would just constantly pick fights with people. Like one time, this girl came to school with pigtails, and he decided to tell her that it made sense because she was fat like Miss Piggy. And when she got mad at him and started yelling at him and calling him rude, his response was to go, "Rah!" and like roar in her face instead of actually replying, which I'm not gonna lie, might actually be a solid response, because what the hell are they supposed to do to that? Like, are you kidding me, Jeremy? Are you really being that rude? Do you have any idea? Rah! Like, oh my god, what? Oh yeah, you're right, bro. I should just leave you alone because you're weird. But that's not the story we're supposed to be talking about. The one that was sent in to me happened in PE in 7th grade. For some reason, Dinosaur Boy Trevor also thought that he was a blessed super athlete. He was convinced that one day he was gonna go to the NFL, even though he never played football. But it was the time in PE to do the football unit, and obviously whenever that happens, like, all the 7th graders take it very seriously, bro. It is not time to play. We all knew the one kid that took it way too seriously, and Trevor ended up being one of those people. And regardless, one day they're playing, and there was a situation where Trevor was covering somebody going for a pass, and he tripped him and then stepped on his ankle and twisted it on purpose, like to try to keep him from getting back up. And obviously the guy was pissed off that he tried to do it. He didn't actually end up twisting his ankle because, believe it or not, dinosaur guys are not very good at hurting people. But he knew that the guy was playing dirty, so he got up in Trevor's face and was like, "Are you kidding me?" and started shoving him, asking him why he was trying to hurt him on purpose. And the Trevor kid looks at him and said, "I wouldn't do that again if I were you, or you're gonna face the wrath of a real dinosaur." And I guess the kid who was pushing him had just had enough, so he pushed him again. And that's when the Trevor kid gets up on his tippy toes, reaches back, puts his arms in like that T-Rex position, and goes, "Rah!" and starts trying to bite the guy. The only problem is, even after all that years of dinosaur practice, Trevor was not very quick at latching out with the jaws. So it very quickly ended up with him on the ground with the guy he tried to beat on top of him, just kind of being like, "What are you doing?" The PE teacher came over to break it up pretty quick, but rumors spread pretty quickly about the fact that this guy had gone full dino and like tried to bite somebody during a fight. And after that, it almost became like a game for people to try to fight him and see if he would bite them. And he loved it. Like, he was super into it too. He loved the fact that people feared being bitten by him. Like, he would kind of snap his teeth at people in line for the water fountain and stuff to like get in front of him because most people were afraid of him. It was just a really weird situation, dude, but it all got shut down when the same kid that he had fought with originally in PE asked him to meet up after school, and he said yes. And I don't want to embarrass Trevor too badly, I'll just put it this way: the video of them fighting after school ended up on World Star, you know? And after that, his whole I'm better than you, acting like a dino thing was stopped. And I will say, nothing humbles you more than getting punched in the face. I know from experience. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you want more of these, just kind of collections or shorter stories, be sure to let me know. I had a bunch of fun making it. If you want more content, you can check out my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. Link is down below, along with the link to the intro song if you enjoyed. And if you want to submit your own story, my Instagram is just @Scrubby. Feel free to follow me on there. Send me a story if you want. Twitter's @Scrubby_69. Other than that, the merch link is also down below in the description if you feel like picking that up. It is the coolest merch in the world ever to exist, even though I am a little biased. But yeah, on that note, guys, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see you guys all next time with another video. I'm gonna go punch my teacher now. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today I've got a little bit of a different video for you guys. I've been on a true crime kick, just kind of watching documentaries on it, and I found a Reddit that kind of has unsolved disappearances and whatnot, and I spent last night going through all of them and picked out 5 of the ones that I thought were the most creepy and unexplainable, and just figured that I would make a video here on the channel talking about all the stories, and yeah, hopefully y'all will enjoy them. And without further ado, let's get into it. No disrespect to the families, sit back, relax, and enjoy the stories. And if you got any intel, call the cops and tell them or something.
On Discord to celebrate. It's not good. Nice rack in her ass Brazilian. Just turned 21, but my bank's a million. Swear I'm a little drunk, but it's a hell of a feeling.
Alright, so the first story that we're going to be talking about today is the 2019 disappearance of Matthew Broncho from Idaho. Basically, this man vanished into thin air. All that they have left is his truck and his dog, and nobody has any idea where he is. Matthew J. Broncho was a 35-year-old man from Idaho, and he was a member of a tribe up there and took quite a bit of pride in the fact that he was Native American. He had a degree from Idaho State University. You know, he had studied political science with an emphasis on federal Indian law and economics. He was a very smart, educated young man. And in fact, at the time he went missing, he was actually planning on going back to school to obtain a master's degree. He was definitely somebody that had a bright future and a good head on his shoulders. He worked for the commodities department on the reservation and had worked for a couple other departments there as well. And everything was going pretty okay. And then all of a sudden, he quits his job that he apparently liked 2 days before he goes missing. Nobody really knows why. Obviously, they've never been able to get to the bottom of it, but all they know is that 2 days before he vanishes, he just quits his job. He had a dog, a dachshund named Afa, who he was really close with, that lived with him obviously, and he was really close with his mom, Cynthia. Anyways, 2 days after he quits his job on March 20th, 2019, he leaves his home with his dog in his truck and he starts driving. He didn't have a massive amount of money on him or anything. The day before he decided to leave, he took $250 out of his bank account, but it wasn't like he had emptied his life savings or anything. And the last time that anybody has seen this man is when he was getting into his truck with his dog and driving away. 2 days after he had left his house, his mother still hadn't heard from him. You know, she hadn't heard any details. She didn't know where he had been, and because they were incredibly close, she decided that it was probably time to try to find him or track him down. So she tried to find him via Find My Phone, you know, the GPS thing, and it ended up pinging off this exit in Utah. Obviously, near the Idaho-Utah border, there's a bunch of freeway exits and whatnot. But what was really weird about the exit where his phone was pinging for his location was that it was 2 hours away from Fort Hall. So his mom went to go find out and figure out what's going on. So she got in her car and ended up driving the 2 hours down there to figure it out. And when she gets there, she just finds his truck at the ramp. The truck is locked. There's no sign that anyone had broken in. And inside was his phone, his wallet, which contained all of his IDs, bank cards, driver's license, and that's it. There's no sign of the dog, and there's no sign of Matthew, you know? It's just this abandoned truck with all the valuable goods sitting inside of it. And usually if somebody's like gonna run away and start a new life and they're gonna abandon their car, they would take their wallet, they would take their stuff because, you know, they're gonna need it to start their new life. And the fact that the truck was locked with the wallet and everything else inside with no appearance of the man or the dog obviously concerned the mom. So she started driving the truck around town to try to figure out if anybody had any information on Matthew's whereabouts. And considering it was like a super small town, it didn't take her super long for her to go around and start asking all these questions. And as she's asking around this town, it's pretty evident that nobody has any clue where this guy is. And considering the population is really small, chances are somebody would have seen him or heard something. So she goes ahead and reports him as a missing person. So that all goes down on March 20th and March 21st. And on March 27th, she gets some good news. She gets a call, Cynthia, the mother of Matthew, and they tell her that they found the dog. She was located around exit 5, so 2 exits before the one where the truck was at, and she was fine, she was alive. It took everyone some attempts to catch her, and obviously once the dog was found, they were expecting maybe a little bit more better news, but no, that's the last thing that they've heard. Nobody has been heard from or seen any sign of Matthew since then. As for theories on what happens, there's a couple of them. Not all of them are happy, obviously, because when somebody goes missing, it's not a happy event. The first theory is that he took his own life and his body hasn't been found. I guess Matthew's brother Jim had told the Idaho State Journal that he had appeared depressed about recent events and that, he seemed upset about undisclosed personal issues. However, the only thing about that is he did take his dog and everything else, and it reported that he left no indications that he planned to leave home long term. Obviously, this is possible. I hope that's not what happened because, I don't want anybody to take their own life, but it is a possibility. The only other two theories that we have is that he was met with some foul play. The one thing that does seem weird is that the dog was just wandering around everywhere. The truck was locked with all of its valuables inside. If this had been like a robbery gone wrong or something, the wallet wouldn't have been there, all the valuables would be missing, but the truck itself was fine and not even broken into. So, as weird as this sounds, I feel like foul play is the most logical answer, either that or taking his own life. The third theory that they have on here that I don't really believe is that, he just decided to quit his life and leave and never come back and now lives as a transit man without any identification, which I guess in theory it's possible, but in my opinion just seems a little bit unlikely. But yeah, how crazy is that? Man literally took his truck and his dog and just vanished into thin air, leaving no trace whatsoever. All right, that obviously is pretty wild, but the next one, for some reason, I'm surprised I hadn't heard about sooner. Basically, back in the roaring 20s, the first time around, 1928, the third richest man in the world disappeared from his private airplane in the middle of the flight. He went to the bathroom and then just vanished, and nobody has any clue what happened. And considering that it seems pretty impressive to disappear in the middle of an airplane, this one's wild. So, back in the 20th century, there was this man named Alfred, and it wasn't the guy who helped out Batman. It wasn't his butler. His name was Alfred Lowenstein. I'm hoping I said that right, and he was one of the most powerful financiers in the world. He would basically act as like a broker between investors and the investing companies. He would invest a lot of money. He would allow businesses to get off the ground. He was just a very, very powerful guy. And he was actually one of the pioneers of the concept of a holding company. So a very, very wealthy man, obviously, third richest one in the world. And on July 4th, 1928, him and his employees boarded this private plane at the Croydon airport. They were supposed to just be going home, a pretty normal trip from him from the UK to Belgium. He was from Belgium, so it wasn't like it was super rare for this dude to be flying home. Everything was good, the weather was perfect, the flight was going just fine. And then at some point in the middle of the flight, this guy gets up, goes inside to the tiny bathroom compartment at the back of the cabin. There's no windows in it. It had 2 doors. And, there really wasn't a way for anyone to get off the plane other than opening the exit of the plane, which would have been crazy obvious, And at some point while he was in the bathroom, he never makes it out of the compartment. The last time anyone sees him alive is him just casually going into the bathroom on the back of his private plane and then just never coming out. After about an hour or so, one of the employees went to check on Alfred because, when someone's been pooping on a plane for an hour, you're gonna want to check on it. He goes to the compartment and he realizes it's empty, and when the third richest man in the world just vanished off a plane, obviously you want to let everybody know. So he runs over and he tells the pilot, this guy named Donald, he's like, hey man, Alfred's gone. He jumped out the bathroom. We can't find him. And so the pilot decides that he's just gonna land on this deserted beach outside of the city of Dunkirk instead of, the airport, which obviously not the best decision. Not really sure why he decided to do that. So they land on this beach and suddenly the French military comes around them and they apprehend everybody because, it's not every day you have just a random airplane landing on the middle of the beach. So they start getting questioned, and it's very quickly obvious to everyone that these employees have no clue what happened. They're convincing themselves that he must have accidentally opened the exit door and fallen. Because, how the hell did this guy manage to get out of the airplane? Nobody really had any idea, and at this point, he's still missing. Well, 15 days later, somebody finds something that kind of, puts a slightly sad ending to things. A fishing boat is just kind of doing its thing near the French coast, and it finds a body just kind of floating there. And sure enough, the body is Alfred. Somehow he had gone from the bathroom of the airplane to the middle of the ocean floating there dead. So obviously they take the body, they give it an autopsy to try to figure out how he died, and they can't really find any signs of foul play, but there is amount of alcohol in his blood, which was really weird because this Alfred guy, I guess, was like super anti-drinking, so everyone's like, that's odd that there would be alcohol in his body when he fell out of an airplane. So, when the third richest guy on the planet disappears and then you find his body after he falls out of an airplane, you would think that they would, really go in to try to figure out what happened, what could have possibly happened for this to occur. But for some reason, it appears that, the entire thing was just kind of swept under the rug. An official inquiry was opened, but basically nobody was under oath, and they all decided that the death was completely accidental. Both men insisted that the exit door was easy to open and that it was possible that it was opening by accident when they were asking the mechanic and the pilot what could have happened. The only problem with this is it just didn't seem very likely. Nobody really questioned the story that the third richest man on Earth had just opened the door of an airplane and fallen to his death, because these guys just said it was easy to open. And what's really weird is that under further examination, this exit door was super not easy to open whatsoever. In fact, some other people ended up doing some tests just to see if it was possible, and they had men hurling themselves at the entry door at an altitude of 1,000 feet, and it didn't even budge. So you have the pilot and the mechanic claiming that this super rich dude somehow managed to accidentally open the door and fall to his death, and then the government, having people literally go try this and not being able to get the door open. But for some reason, everybody's just like, oh, nope, it was an accident. Nope, nothing to see here. So obviously, if there's no way to accidentally get the door open, and suicide doesn't really make sense considering he was making plans for the future right before the incident, he was on his way home, and even if he wanted to open the door, he couldn't have. It means that somebody had to have pushed this guy off the plane, right? The two most obvious suspects at the time were Donald Drew and Robert Little, which is the pilot and the mechanic. And there's an author who's written about the book, and he kind of believes that they were hired to kill Alfred. Because all of a sudden, after Alfred was killed, they started to live a very lavish lifestyle, you know what I mean? Suddenly, the pilot life he was living before was nothing compared to the life he was living now. Almost as if he got a large sum of money out of nowhere after this really, really wealthy dude died on his plane. Basically, the author who wrote this book thinks that there was a faulty door kind of put on the back of the plane, and when Alfred went to the bathroom, they just kind of had to open the door, let him fall out, and then oops, look at that, what an accident. And then once he had fallen out of the plane, they could just replace the door with another one. And he says this is the reason why the pilot decided to land on the beach instead of an airport, because if they land on a beach, it's a little bit easier to replace the door without people noticing as much. As for who would have wanted to hire anybody for him to get killed, there are a couple people that people are suspicious of. One is Henry Dreyfuss. He was a business rival, and I guess he was friends with Alfred at one point. And they were in a feud, and they basically had been getting into this massive fight ever since Henry had made an expose trying to expose Lowenstein before. Dreyfuss, as a result of that fake story, was actually being sued for libel by Alfred. And, him dying definitely would put a hinge in him being able to sue him, The only other ones that are really possibly intentional that would want him to die are Albert Pam and Frederick Svarsey. And these were the two men in the holding company that he owned. And, obviously, on the surface, partners don't benefit from one of them dying. But apparently, after International Holdings died, the owner, Alfred, died, the stock soared, and $13 million in profit appeared out of nowhere, And what's really weird is that $13 million in profit that made the stock soar is the exact number of an insurance policy that was taken out on Alfred before he died. So, obviously, this all happened in 1928. It's unlikely we're ever going to get an answer now, but yeah, at some point, somebody basically whacked the third richest man on the world by throwing him out of an airplane, and we're never going to know who. So, always double check your airplane doors if you're a billionaire flying, I guess. All right, next up, we have one that genuinely has me puzzled 100%. Basically, this one takes place in 1998, and it's the story of Lenny Dirksen. Basically, he was having breakfast with his son one day when an unidentified man asked about a horse that he had for sale. He went with the man to discuss the horse and then just never came home ever. And then later, it came out that he didn't even have a horse for sale, and nobody even really knew what the guy he had left with was talking about, you know? Basically, on March 14th, 1998, there was a 39-year-old named Lenny. And him and his 16-year-old son were having a normal Saturday morning, just eating breakfast together on the dairy farm in Oklahoma that they had. And at 9 a.m., as they're eating, doing their thing, just vibing around the dairy farm, a visitor showed up in a white pickup truck. And the son watched as his dad went outside and just kind of talked to the stranger for a bit. And the conversation seemed friendly. It didn't look like he was mad at all or anything was bad-blooded. And they're just kind of standing by the truck for a bit. And Lenny comes back in the house and tells Jared about how the man outside was interested in buying one of Lenny's stud horses. And obviously, because this man wanted to buy a horse, he wanted to see the horse before he bought it. I've never bought a horse, but I'm guessing that's pretty common. So he looks at his son, and his father tells him, "I'm gonna go with this guy really quick. Stay here, get some feed, go feed the cows, and I'll be back this afternoon." And obviously, working on a dairy farm, it wasn't that weird, so he says okay, tells his dad to be safe, and he'll see him later. And Lenny had to have traveled a little bit that city. He was supposed to go to Elk City, Oklahoma, and Mobeetie, Texas that day, and his son didn't really know which one was going to be first, but the last time he sees his dad is him just kind of going with the stranger to show him this horse. When time comes that evening for his dad to come home, he just doesn't show up. His son figures that there just must have been something going on, and he waits until the next morning to report his father is missing. Obviously, once they report his dad is missing, the police come through and they're kind of thoroughly searching the house, and they discover that Lenny had left an uncashed paycheck at the house and that he only had $150 less on him on the day of his disappearance, which obviously doesn't bode very well. When people disappear without any money on them, it usually shows that they weren't planning on disappearing. And later, people are digging into it. They find out that he had never even had a horse for sale. So wherever this guy who had come up and said he was interested in buying a horse had come from, it definitely wasn't a listing that Lenny had actually had. So sure enough, they figure maybe, it just wasn't listed. So they go to the property where he kept his horses just to see if he was there, something went down there. And sure enough, they get there and there's basically no proof that he had even been there that day. Everything looks relatively undisturbed, and now the police have literally no leads onto where he is or what could have possibly happened. His entire family thinks that there's no way he ran away on his own whatsoever either. I guess around the time of his disappearance, Lenny was struggling financially and emotionally. He was in debt, he had his credit cards maxed out, and his dairy farm business had actually folded a couple months earlier because of milk prices crashing. Amongst all of that, though, his family insists that he would have never disappeared and abandoned his family because, he loved his family. His son to this day talks about how every morning him and his dad would go to work, do the chores, and do everything together, and he doesn't think that his dad would have ever just left for no reason and never come back to say anything. And apparently things were even starting to look up. He had gotten a job at a metal factory and was enjoying working at the metal factory so much he was considering buying it before he disappeared. To make matters even weirder, shortly after 9 a.m. on the morning of his disappearance, a waitress saw Lenny and another random male individual eating breakfast together in a local coffee shop. Apparently, from what the waitress says, the strange man, probably the one who was interested in buying the non-existent horse, was just talking, and Lenny was just kind of sitting there listening. Sure enough, the eyewitness description of the random man ended up matching Jared's description of the stranger that had come to the farm that day to see the horse. But the waitress and Jared both agree that there was nothing too suspicious about the man's behavior. 6 months after his disappearance, a man ended up calling the police saying that he saw Lenny in a bar in Texas. He described the man over the phone, but didn't want to give his name, saying he wanted to remain anonymous. The police rushed to the bar, but by the time they got there, both the man and Lenny were both gone. Apparently, though, the bartender who had been working there corroborated the caller's story. Apparently, she remembered the caller being there at the bar. and the police say that they had no reason to disbelieve the incident. It's almost a stretch of the imagination that a guy would be dancing around the bar screaming, "It's Leonard," and not be Leonard. I believe he was in the bar at Amarillo, Texas. In the 20 years since his disappearance, it remains unsolved, and his family is still holding out for any information. Our last story of the video is one that I personally find the most creepy. In 1993, a mother and daughter returned home to find their husband and father, David Glenn Lewis, missing. However, hours later, a deceased hit-and-run victim was found 1,000 miles away. It would take 11 years before the victim would be identified as David Glenn Lewis. How did he get there? On January 31st, 1993, David Glenn Lewis's wife and 9-year-old daughter came home from a little trip in Dallas, Texas, and found that David had gone missing. They had no idea that across the country, David was hours away from being found as an unidentified John Doe. The man had been seen walking down a Washington highway before being killed in a hit-and-run. David Glenn Lewis was born in Borger, Texas in 1953. He was an honors student who ended up graduating Texas Tech University Law School and gaining a doctorate in law in 1979. He was a very successful and very smart man who had a family. He was a Sunday school teacher and a director for the Board of Community Education Council. This was a very family-focused man, not the type of person to just up and leave his family in the middle of the week. Anyways, it's Super Bowl weekend of 1993, and David's wife and daughter decided to go to Dallas for a little bit of a weekend shopping trip. Amarillo, Texas at the time wasn't exactly the hustle and bustle in place like Dallas was, so that weekend they did the 400-mile drive down to Dallas just to kind of have some fun. It is known that David is seen last alive on the 30th of January, but by where and by whom has not been revealed. All it knows is that the police know that he was alive at some point after his wife and daughter had left. On the 31st of January, the day of the Super Bowl, his family came home expecting to find their husband and their dad waiting for them, and they were surprised to find that David was gone. There was a tape recorder that had been left recording the match, and it had continued to run after it finished. And there were 2 freshly made sandwiches in the fridge, with David's wedding ring being placed on the kitchen counter. It's important to know at the time that this tape recorder that had been recording the game couldn't have been left on because, there was no presetting function in 1993, so he had to have set the recording for the Super Bowl. Looking around the house, there were no signs of struggle, there was no signs of a break-in or foul play, and it basically looked like he had just gone out for a bit. Due to the Super Bowl going on and the recording, his wife basically thought he had gone to a friend's house and he would come back later. But a day later, on the 1st of February, with him being gone, the wife ended up going to the police department and filing her husband as missing. Anyways, as he's reported missing in Texas, at 10:30 p.m. in Washington, several people are spotting this dude kind of walking down the highway. Obviously, it's dangerous to be walking down the highway. And eventually, he ends up getting hit by a car. The police go to this area and they find a middle-aged man dressed in some military-style clothing. There's no drugs or alcohol in his system, and it looks like he had been hit by a hit-and-run. A Camaro had been near the scene at the time of his death, and obviously they thought it might have had something to do with it, but he didn't have any ID on him. It just looked like some random transient walking down the highway who had been getting hit by a car 1,600 miles away from where he had gone missing. Basically, back where David's from, they launched an exploration or an investigation into his death, and they start looking for his car, and they find it outside of a courts building downtown. Under the floor mat, they find his house keys, his car keys, his checkbook, his credit card, his driver's license, everything that you would think somebody would be taking when they go to run, right? Nothing personal is missing, nothing valuable is missing, which obviously doesn't really help. The only lead that they have is that sometime before he died, David had gone to his wife and said that he's in danger. He didn't want to tell his wife anything, but basically he believed his life was on the line based on the danger he was in, and now he had disappeared. So obviously his family starts trying to find things to give them closure, and they start thinking that maybe because he was an attorney, there was, a client or something that was mad at him and was trying to hold him accountable. He was actually due in Dallas a week after his disappearance for a conflict of interest between his former law firm and a wealthy client. And basically, he told his father that he was not going to cover anything up and that he was going to tell the truth, whoever it hurts. And obviously, rich people really don't like the beans being spilled on them doing horrible things. The possible leads, however, went nowhere until later the investigators found something crazy important. 2 plane tickets that were made in his name around the time of his disappearance. The first ticket that was purchased on the 31st was from Dallas to Amarillo, and it was the same journey that his wife and daughter had made. The second ticket that he purchased was from Los Angeles to Dallas, and this is the exact same day that his body was found in Washington. As for why he bought the plane tickets, nobody knows. It's not sure if he wanted to use them or if he wanted to go anywhere. All they know is that he purchased it. But this is when things get even more confusing. So in 2003, 10 years after that man is found dead in the road walking down the street, there's this thing posted kind of talking about the body in a newspaper. So one of the people listening to this starts kind of Googling all these characteristics and starts trying to match who was missing. And within a week, the police have a breakthrough from doing this. They find a list of victims who ended up matching this guy. And one in particular, David Glenn Lewis, looked very familiar. It was strikingly similar to the guy they had found, and they just figured that if they put glasses on him, they would actually be twins. So they go looking, and sure enough, they're able to identify through DNA connection that this guy that died 1,600 miles away and David Glenn Lewis, who had disappeared, are the same person. Somehow, he had made it 1,600 miles away from home without anybody noticing and had gotten hit and killed by a car with no identification. The fact that he thought he was in danger, said he wasn't going to cover up anything, obviously makes this pretty interesting. It's not every day somebody says they're going to get whacked and then they get whacked. It does make it kind of like a sci-fi movie. But I honestly thought that one was very interesting, even though we're probably never going to know about it, dude. I'm sure his family having closure was good for them. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. I know this one was a little bit scarier. I just think this stuff is fascinating, not in a cool way, but in like a weird way. So I just decided I'd make a video talking about some of my favorites. If you enjoyed, I would appreciate you pressing the like button, letting me know in the comments section down below what you thought. If you like the intro song, a link to it will be in the description along with a link to the merch. And yeah, on that note, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I have a story time for you guys I've been wanting to tell for a while, but I just wanted to make sure I could do it justice, And as you guys can tell, today's story time is a little bit longer than normal because I finally think I've done it. So before we get into it, I'm going to be telling you guys the story of a guy I worked with who literally thought he was a Power Ranger. But before we could get into it, if you guys could just press the like button in honor of this story, I would really appreciate it. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so most of you guys that are loyal subscribers to the channel know at this point that I used to work at a grocery store. I've told a lot of stories about it, but this one in particular I haven't yet. At the grocery store, there was this department of guys that worked behind the milk aisle that you guys see. I'm gonna call them the dairy guys for the rest of the video, working in the derriere of the store, the unsung heroes of the refrigerator, the thin icy line. No matter what you call them, the one thing that tended to be true about this dairy team for whatever reason is that they all tended to be a little bit bizarre. They didn't really have to interact with the other workers too much, and so because of that, they kind of lived in their own world. If somebody was a little weird, we would put them back there. And there was one particular dairy guy who was a little bit weirder than everybody else, though, and he was this 40-year-old ginger man with a giant beard named Nathan. Now, Nathan was, by his looks, this big dude, almost looked like a biker, a big portly man. He looked very tough, looked like a very tough guy. And, one of his most distinctive features was this massive beard. And most of the store was horrified of him because he just looked insanely scary. But the dairy guys loved him and were always talking about how funny he could be, even though he was annoying. It seemed like one of those situations where working with him could be super frustrating, but it was also entertaining. And, I was pretty cool with most of the people at the store because at the time, for a while, I was just kind of floating from department to department, helping whoever was shorthanded that day. And every time I would come into the store and see that I was on dairy duty, I would like check to see if I was with Nathan, because every time we were with him, it would be entertaining. And that's not necessarily a good thing. He was primarily entertaining because he would like get really mad and made no sense. Because the one thing that it seemed like no one except for the people on the dairy team really knew about Nathan was that for some reason, he thought that he was a Power Ranger. You know, that's why he was so fun to work with. And when I say that, I know most of you are thinking that, like, you know, he was just a massive fan and he would talk about it sometimes. Maybe he had a sticker on the back of his car or something. And trust me, you know, that would be way more normal compared to what was actually happening. But this grown 40-year-old man genuinely thought that he was a member of the superpower team or the superhero team, the Power Rangers, you know. And I figured this out pretty quickly my first day working with the dairy guys because I was actually replacing Nathan that day. And the whole day they kept making fun of him because he had taken off work and told everybody that he had official Power Ranger duties to attend to, which is why he couldn't come in. And honestly, when they were first saying it, I thought that they were kidding, you know, but like as it went on through the day, I kind of was pressing them for more information. And what I found out wasn't short of like one of the greatest things I'd ever heard. This was my first time filling in personally, but they told me that basically once a week he would call in and basically say he couldn't come in and someone needed to cover his shift. And, you know, all he would say as to why was that he had some Power Ranger duties. And obviously everyone in the dairy department is like super annoyed with this because, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal if he had asked ahead for time off or like requested it ahead of schedule. But when he's literally calling like 10 minutes before he comes in and saying he can't come in because he has Power Ranger work, it's pretty annoying, you know? And I honestly thought that they were messing with me because I was like, there's no way that this 40-year-old man is looking at his coworkers and saying that he couldn't come in yesterday because he had Power Ranger work. And so I kind of was like asking more questions, and they told me that they had confronted him about it before just to see what he would say about it. And he had mentioned that, you know, Power Ranger work isn't scheduled, so whenever he gets beeped, he just needs to go. And I'm stupefied, bro. They can tell by the look on my face. I just don't believe it. So they keep telling me stories, showing me screenshots, showing me videos of him talking about being a Power Ranger, telling them that, like, yesterday when I called out of work, I actually went and fought supervillains. And I am like not believing any of this, dude. I kind of play along. I'm hoping that it's just trolling me or something. And as the day comes to an end, I'm kind of disappointed because it was being pretty funny. And I'm also disappointed because I don't know if I'm ever going to get to work with Nathan. I didn't really work in the dairy department super often. But the idea of like seeing this dude who thought he was a Power Ranger just entertained my mind. So I go home and for some reason I just can't stop thinking about this, you know, elderly large ginger man thinking he's a Power Ranger. So I did something that's a little bit weird, but my curiosity got the better of me. And I go and I look him up on Facebook. You know, I'm trying to find him. I'm not gonna lie, it takes me a while because his name was like Nathan and then just the most generic last name ever. So there's like a lot of dudes with the same name, and his last name was also pretty Scottish, so they're also all ginger, so like I'm just having a hard time finding him. But I finally find him, and I start to go through his profile to figure out what's going on, and I'm not kidding when I say that every post is him talking about how hard life is as a Power Ranger and how he's always saving people. But as I'm scrolling through it, dude, I see the cream of the crop. Now, as I said, Nathan was a larger ginger man, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just gotta have a little bit of self-awareness, you know? And if you've ever seen the Power Rangers, they wear these, like, super skin-tight suits and helmets, and that's their uniform. You know, it's actually the least effective armor to have ever been made. Like, it doesn't look like it would protect you from a paper airplane crash, let alone the type of combat that Nathan is telling these dudes that he's getting into once a week, you know? Anyways, on Nathan's Facebook is a picture of him wearing the skin-tight Power Ranger suit, but on top of that is this Power Ranger helmet, and it almost looks like he's had it for just too long, and it's 2 sizes too small, because it has, like, the visor, and in the visor, you can see his face, like, smushed up against the visor. I'm not saying, like, it was like he just had it for too long. It was almost as if he had bought the costume when he was like 17 and then just never got a different one. The real power was that it was somehow still working. Anyways, there's this like photo shoot of him in his costume doing poses, parkour, all that stuff, you know, and the caption is something about how he had this Power Ranger since he had first been recruited and it still fits like a glove, which is not the term I would have used, but hey, I guess that's why I didn't write it. But one thing that really confuses me about this is This dude was way older than the Power Rangers. Like, I watched the Power Rangers growing up. I was born in 99, so late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of people were into them. My older cousins were, my younger brother was, but like, that's the prime demographic, I feel. This dude was already like 26, 27 years old when they even came out, which means at some point, this grown man was just watching Power Rangers and was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And, which is messed up. I mean, this is the nicest way to Power Rangers. They don't hold up well. Like, if you ever watched Power Rangers as a kid, I'm telling you now, honestly, don't go rewatch it. You're just gonna be disappointed. But the idea of a grown person being able to watch that and dedicate their life to it kind of scares me. I made the mistake of rewatching it a bit ago, and my God, dude, there were literally better actors in Darman videos. Like, when you're little, it's awesome. It's the coolest show ever, but if somebody else watches it and dedicates their life to it, there's something wrong. Anyways, I'm now sitting here with all this information, and my desire to go work in the dairy section of the store is even stronger, dude. I'm like, I don't even want to go to school. Go put me in the dairy section. I need to just hear this. I really felt like I just needed to meet Nathan at this point, hear his story, understand what it was like to talk to him. I'm just going to work, crossing my fingers. I'm going to get assigned to that area. And finally, I walk in one day, and I'm really hyped because on the schedule, I see Nathan's name and my name, and I basically sprint to the back of the store because I'm just like, let's get this party started. It's time to go. I want to meet a Power Ranger. So I get into the back room and everybody's already there, including Nathan, and he's the only one that I haven't met from this crew at this point because I've worked with them before. So I introduce myself, and you would think that he wouldn't lead with the fact that he's a Power Ranger. You kind of want to keep that on the low. But I introduce myself and he looks me in the eyes and just says, "I'm the Blue Ranger. Nice to meet you." And as soon as he does that, I kind of look at everybody else and they kind of like look at me wide-eyed with the whole, "I told you we weren't crazy and he's actually like this." Obviously, I had known at this point after my research on Facebook, but these dudes were probably like so vindicated telling these stories about this Nathan guy and nobody believes you because it's just like, there's no way you work with a dude who thinks he's a Power Ranger. And you would think, that as a Power Ranger, working with the Power Ranger should be great. He should be able to lift as much as everybody else, like 25 times. He should be super helpful, super nice. But if this guy was a Power Ranger, then the saying, like, don't meet your heroes is definitely true, dude. We start working, like actually getting work, and right away everybody's frustrated because this Nathan dude just vanishes. Like, I swear he walked out of the fridge and into the Power Ranger lair. I could not find this guy anywhere. And of course, like right when he disappears is right when a giant delivery came and we have to be lifting all these boxes to and from where the truck is into the fridge, just like going back and forth. It's not fun, but it's just very convenient that he disappears right then. And it was then that I realized that, he's just not the type of Power Ranger to help. He's just the type of Power Ranger to watch and let everybody else do the heavy lifting, He's just here to help us get our workout. He doesn't need the workout because he's a Power Ranger already. Obviously, he's already jacked. It's up to us to continue to get stronger without him. Anyways, almost like clockwork, as soon as we finish unloading the truck, he moseys over, and in his hand, he has like a piece of sample sushi from the front of the store. So he had obviously, while we were unloading this truck, like gone, walked around the store, talked to some people, got some sushi. He had just been having a great time while we were all back here working. And as he's eating his sushi, it's like in his mouth, there's food in his mouth. He's like, "Yeah, I would have helped, but I hurt my back on this Power Ranger mission last night, but I'm really proud of your guys' hard work, and you should feel good that a Power Ranger is proud of you." Like, "Oh, thanks, man, that's cool and all, but I really don't care if a Power Ranger is proud of me at this point, considering I just had to do a bunch of work that would have been way easier if you helped me, You're a random stranger. You being proud of me means literally nothing." I didn't know for sure, but, I thought it was obvious to everybody that basically he just kind of disappeared whenever the order showed up so that way he didn't have to do any work, And I just figured out that that was pretty common because everybody else was just like, "Yeah, whatever, just help now." Like, they didn't act like it was crazy abnormal for him to be doing that. And for the rest of that, the first day is a mix of him literally running away from any hard work to get done. Like, sure, the first truck that came, he had vanished calmly. But there was literally one time when this, yogurt had come in and we had to, like, unload it into the display. And he literally ran out of the fridge saying it was his lunch break, even though he had only gotten there, like, an hour ago. And I kind of was understanding why everybody had seemed so annoyed with him the first day because it just seemed like he avoided doing any work. Like, it wasn't like he was just avoiding work and not talking either. It's one thing if you're slacking and you just stay out of everybody's way, you're really grateful that they're doing all the heavy lifting, but on top of avoiding doing work with us, he would always just be bringing up like his non-existent Power Ranger experience as a reason he should be in charge and like was better than us, So he comes back from lunch when we were doing the yogurt, and I guess whatever, he didn't like the way we had done the yogurt, so he comes in yelling at us about how we had basically ruined the store, and the Power Rangers would have never put yogurt out like that. Yeah, you're right that the Power Rangers probably would have never put out yogurt like that because they don't exist, bro. They're not real. Like, this was literally what he would do. If you're gonna slack, then slack and shut up. You don't get to slack and then also complain about all the hard work that everybody else is doing. And if the Power Rangers were real, they probably wouldn't be stocking yogurt. That's probably it too. You want to know why we didn't stock yogurt the way Power Rangers would? Because they've never done that. Why would they be doing that? They have powers. People with real superpowers have better stuff to do. If I had been a superpower at 16, I wouldn't have been in the grocery store, that's for sure. I would have been like jumping buildings or something. And nobody cares how Power Rangers would have done it. And if you wanted it done a specific way, like the Power Ranger way, then maybe you shouldn't have ran away while we were doing it. Like, you call me crazy, you just lose the right to complain about how it's done if you did everything in your power to have nothing to do with it. Like, if you tell the people running the group project, you don't care, and then you get an F, okay, that just is what it is. It's your fault, He did the deadbeat dad equivalent of leaving for 18 years and then coming back and complaining about how the kid turns out. Like, it would have been better if you helped Mr. Power Ranger. And even beyond that, he would also just challenge people in these super weird ways. Like, he would just talk mad crap and then back out, citing the Power Ranger code. And these are just some of the weird things I witnessed him doing. There was this younger dude named Gerald who worked in the dairy department, and he was a bigger guy. His biceps were about the size of this dude's helmet, which was 2 sizes too small. And because he was a bigger guy, he would carry 2 boxes of stuff at once, like, instead of 1. And you weren't supposed to do that, but he literally was just strong enough where it wasn't that big of a deal. They weren't light boxes, they were large, and it was impressive seeing him carry it. And it would made our job a lot easier. Obviously, if he's carrying more stuff, I have to carry less. So nobody else is mad at this dude for doing more work. But one time we're going, and out of nowhere, Nathan is like, oh, you're not lifting enough, bro. With arms that big, you shouldn't need help doing this at all. You should be able to do this by yourself. You should be able to lift 3 of them. And everybody's really confused at that because, like, he's literally just helping, and Gerald's had enough of it. So he comes back and he's like, dude, you literally run away from work. You can barely carry 1 box. How about you shut up about my carrying boxes until you help? And then Nathan has the nerve to say this, dude. Well, I could carry 10 boxes at once. It's against the Power Ranger code for me to use my powers at work, Oh, yeah, okay, man. So you get super strength, but you just can't use it. Like, why even talk crap to a dude who's doing more work and helping a lot for no reason? Especially if you're just gonna talk crap and then be like, well, I would back it up, but I can't. I'm a Power Ranger. Why get mad at a strong guy and claim you're stronger if you're just not? It's not like there was any provocation. There was no beef. He just really wanted to let everybody know he had super strength again. He hadn't told anyone for 5 minutes. It was like a vegan that hadn't told anyone to stop eating meat in 43 seconds. For someone who was supposed to be a superhero, he had no problem just telling everybody about it. Like, I'm sure the Power Rangers had to pull him aside and be like, dude, you're supposed to be an inconspicuous superhero. You can't be running around telling everyone at your job that you are one. That kind of defeats the whole, like, under the radar thing, We're trying to keep it low key. It's an exclusive club. But I think the wildest moment that I have ever seen him was involving the time that he used his Power Rangers at work in front of us to fight a customer, Apparently, the I can't use my power thing goes out the window when you're just pissed at somebody. One day, though, I'm helping out in the dairy section, and we're like behind the fridge where you grab the milk. And when you're in this spot, people can see you and hear you if they're really trying. And like the general rule of thumb is to shut up when you're in this area, because the last thing you want is someone to hear you talking while they're grabbing the milk and like go tell that you mentioned your manager sucks or something like that. But, that's just the rule, is be quiet. But apparently, on this particular day, Nathan hadn't been bragging in a while, hadn't been in a minute, because he was acting like he was making up for lost time, letting everybody know how awesome his Power Ranger time was. Even when we were in the fridge, he's just talking about how he was in a fight with a supervillain and doing the play-by-play dude. Like, I thought Joe Rogan was in my ear, and then I threw an elbow, and then I used my shield to double block the return fire, and then I punched him. And he's just talking really loud, and like some customer, probably like 23, is out there, and he overhears him talking about some Power Ranger villain or whatever, and he says something like, man, I miss the Power Rangers. It sucks that they don't make them that good anymore, like talking about how the quality of the show had fallen off, trying to be nice, if anything. Obviously, in the context of this conversation, it's not insulting. It's not like he came out the gate and said, you're not a Power Ranger, you're an angry old man. But it didn't matter what he said or what it was. I think Nathan was just like looking down to throw down with anyone. So he's like, what did you just say? And the guy is obviously a little bit confused with milk in his hand, and he just like repeats that he misses the Power Rangers. And Nathan starts yelling that like the Power Rangers are the unsung heroes of this town, and anyone who has the nerve to disrespect the Power Rangers is gonna get beat up, and if he has a problem, he's more than happy to walk out of this fridge and teach him a lesson to respect them. And like, if I were the guy on the other side, I probably would have chalked it up to just some dude working here being a nut job. But the guy on the other side's not the type to back down, so he's like, who are you talking to? Yeah, come out here and teach me a lesson. And so I watched Nathan take off his gloves. It was really cold in there, so we had gloves on. He takes off his gloves, and he just kind of like power walks out of the fridge and starts going out there. And as much as I would love to say that I stayed behind and, didn't want to go watch, that's a lie. I was very excited to see what was going to happen. So me and everybody else goes out, and we go and start to watch. And like, what do you expect me to do? I'm just a kid. There's a guy telling me that he can beat up everybody, claims he's a Power Ranger, he's about to fight. You want me not to watch it? Come on, you would too. Anyways, we get out there, though, and this younger dude that we couldn't really see from the other side of the fridge is a lot larger than I would have expected. He's probably got like 5 or 6 inches on Nathan height-wise, and he's just in way better condition. This guy looks like he just drank raw eggs for breakfast. Anyways, Nathan, though, almost fearlessly just walks up to this tall guy and is like, are you the dude that's disrespecting Power Rangers? And the guy is like, yeah, and before he can finish his sentence, Nathan just like points his head down and just spears into him and goes to tackle him. And he actually gets him to the ground. I just think like the surprise of it catches him off guard. And at that point, everybody else in the dairy section is staring. They're like, oh my God, stop. Oh my God. All the moms freaking out. We're not really saying anything. We're just kind of like, watching this happen. And obviously, he kind of had gotten him off guard, but the guy who got tackled wasn't having any of this. So he gets up and he starts kind of like holding Nathan in a headlock by his hip. And he opens the fridge and he just takes Nathan, one hand on the back of his shirt out of the headlock and like one hand on his belt, and just shoves him into the fridge and starts like pushing him head first into the milk so that the gallons are falling back into the milk fridge. And he keeps pushing him until he's half out of the fridge, like to the point where his butt is hanging out of the fridge and the rest of him is in it. And at that point, our managers start to show up because, it doesn't take an insane amount of time to get across the store, especially if you're in a hurry with like how much screaming is going on and the commotion that's happening. I'm surprised they didn't get there faster. Anyways, they come around the corner to me and the other 2 guys who are in the back just watching this go down. And another one of the workers with his butt out of the fridge with an angry man like trying to still shove him in further. So in that moment, everybody just is kind of like frozen, and the only thing that gets us out of that is we hear a scream that sounds like a wounded buffalo, and Nathan pulls himself somehow out of this fridge and like in a fit of strength just starts hitting this dude in the chest and is like, by the power of Zordon, which is the Power Ranger like hero dude. And he keeps hitting him in the chest. And, I think in Nathan's head, he was like, this is my ultimate anime arc moment. I'm going to get powers. This punch is going to do, 3,000 damage. It's a max level attack. But instead of it actually doing anything, the guy, wasn't even fazed by it, dude. You might as well have just been hitting him in the chest with Nerf darts. It was like nothing was happening. So he does his little outburst, and the managers come in to separate him before it gets worse. They tell us to go to the back of the fridge, so we do, and we're standing back there just kind of talking about it, laughing. We can't believe what just happened. And after, about 30 minutes, Nathan comes and starts emptying out his locker, and like we walk up to him and we're say sorry about losing your job. Obviously they don't really have a choice. If you're trying to fight a guy trying to buy milk, it's not good for business. You can't really stay. But like, instead of being upset about it or regretting it at all, he just looks at us and he's like, nah, don't feel bad for me at all, dude. I would do it again. I'd beat him up again for disrespecting the Power Rangers. They're just lucky that they broke us up before I could really put the beating on him, Somehow in his mind, he had won the fight. Like somehow, when he ended up inside of the milk fridge with his butt hanging out, that was a win for him. I don't know how you could consider that a victory. These conditions don't really make sense to me to be a victory, but, I guess when you take an L that large, you kind of got to cope somehow. Otherwise, you just have to accept 8 soccer moms watched you become a gallon of milk. I'm sure that's not very fun to admit, so I guess cope, do what you got to do. I think my favorite part about all of this is the fact that he just never admitted to not being a Power Ranger. Like, he just left and is probably still rolling with that. And I also love that, like, somewhere out there is this random guy that has this story now. He's not involved in this guy's Power Ranger life, our dairy gang, nothing. He has no clue what was going on that day. All he knows is that he was like, yeah, man, one time I was standing there picking between whole and 2% milk, and I made a comment about the Power Rangers. Next thing I know, this worker comes out and starts attacking me. Like, if Nathan and me did a 23andMe test, it would just be 90% delusional and angry. I don't know what it was about working in a grocery store, but it honestly collected some of the craziest people that I had ever met. But I think that's going to do it for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment Power Ranger down below. It helps the video do better, and I would really appreciate it. Other than that, subscribe, turn on those notifications. If you really want to help out the channel, you could go to the description and click on the link to my other channel, Scrub Shorts. It's the shorts channel that I made. And along with that is a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. And if you look on screen, you'll see the coolest merch to ever exist in the history of the world, which is also in the description, and you should definitely buy it. Other than that, be sure to use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. If you're getting yourself some of the best energy drink for gamers, it'll give you a discount, which is very fantastic. Helps you out, helps me out. Everyone is a winner. And yeah, that's everything that I gotta plug. On that note, guys, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I will see you guys all again in another video. I'm gonna go find a random 90s TV show to become insanely obsessed with, get a job at a grocery store, and then convince kids that I actually am a member of the Blues Clues or the Power Rangers. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time for y'all that was sent in to me about a guy at this person's school who thinks he's dating an anime character. That type of cringe, we just gotta tell the story about. But before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, your best friend is gonna think they're dating an anime character. And without further ado, let's go.
Nice racking her ass Brazilian. Just turned 21, but my bank's a million.
Alright, so as all of you know, back in the day, I used to tell quite a few stories about weeaboos. It's been a long time since I've had a good one submitted, but when I had this one sent in about a kid who thinks he's dating an anime character, it just really made me happy, so I figured I would share it with y'all. But basically, what you gotta know about this is that this takes place in a graphic design class that this person is in. And in this graphic design class, you really don't have to, share with the class. You don't have to talk to anyone. In fact, it's one of the only classes where, like, the teacher doesn't even take roll by talking. Like, at this kid's school, he literally just looks, and if you're sitting at your computer, you're marked there. But there's one kid in this class who, for whatever reason, is constantly, like, just talking really loudly, bragging to the class, asking to talk to the class about his life. Just obviously has I'm the main character syndrome. You know what I mean? Like, where they just think they're the most important person on the planet. And for some reason, you would think somebody that wants to get up in front of the class and brag about stuff would have a lot going on, but this kid really doesn't have a lot going on, and he's committed to trying to convince people that he is dating an anime character. And usually when somebody's like trying to convince someone they're dating an anime character or whatever, usually the approach is like, oh, I'm dating someone that happens to have all the same qualities and name of an anime character, because they're hoping that you don't realize it's a cartoon character, right? No, this kid really is trying to convince his class full of people that he is dating a cartoon character, and it comes to life at night and comes and hangs out with them, but it's like not gonna come to school or talk to any of them because it doesn't want them to judge its relationship. And what's wild is this is not like an elementary school class here. This is a high school. This dude is out here trying to convince a bunch of people that he's dating a full-blown cartoon character. And at first they thought he was trolling. You know what I mean? Like they thought, okay, maybe this kid's just playing the long game to get a joke. He's gonna be like, haha, I convinced a group of people that I'm dating a cartoon character. But what really got weird is, as I said, it's a graphic design class, and some of the assignments that would get presented involved, like, photoshopping things together. You would get an assignment and have to edit things together. And because of that, people have gotten pretty proficient at Photoshop, and whenever they do an assignment, this guy turns in an edit of him and this specific anime character in like super romantic places, but it's never far off in Paris. It's never a dream. He picks places in town, and when he turns it in, he says, I took this picture of me and my girlfriend, but I just edited in like the sky. I made the sunset prettier. I did this, I did that. He completely just avoids saying to the fact that he adds the anime character in as well. And so obviously people kind of started messing with him about it, like confronting him, you're not actually dating the anime girl. And when they said he wasn't actually dating the anime girl, he got like really mad, like, ugh, and was like, you guys have no idea what it's like to date a celebrity, okay? I know you guys have never heard of it, but in Japan, anime characters have been invented and have been voice acting for a long time. They've been real since the 90s. Yeah, bro, I understand that Japan is way more advanced, all right? They have better transportation, they have better technology. I'm not fighting with that here, but I think we definitely would have heard about it by now if they somehow managed to make cartoon characters become real. I also don't know what the benefit of that would be. Like, if I was actually a cartoon company, it's so much easier for me to just have people voice act a character and not actually have to, like, be responsible for the character. But anyways, they were kind of like, dude, that's just not true. Come on, you are not dating this anime character. Like, it's not real, you're not dating them. And he just would not admit it. Like, kept doubling down, getting angrier. And eventually he was like, if you guys aren't going to be supportive of my relationship, then just don't talk to me anymore. And when that happened, everyone was like, dude, trust me, we don't want to have to be hearing about your fake relationship with the cartoon girl that doesn't exist. It's just kind of hard not to hear about it when every assignment you're like editing her into your pictures. And he's like, I do not edit her into the pictures. The pictures are taken of me and my girlfriend. They're like, regardless, you're always talking about her. You're always like saying everything so loudly about her. If you don't want us to make fun of you and make fun of the fact that your girlfriend's not real, stop talking about her. And he's like, well, she is real, but fine. If you guys don't want to hear about my happy relationship anymore, then so be it. I won't talk about it anymore. And so finally they think they've gotten rid of it, right? Like he's gonna stop talking about it. But sure enough, around that time of year, prom started to come up too. And inevitably in class, people started talking about prom, their plans, who they were taking. And this guy, of course, says, I'm bringing my girlfriend. And everyone's like, oh, do you have a girlfriend now? And he says it's the character's name. And once again, the people that are sitting near him were like, dude, you can't bring a cartoon character to prom. And he's like, no, trust me, she's gonna come. She says she wants to come show all of you guys that she's real, and so like, trust me, you guys will see. And obviously everyone's like, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, trust me, your girlfriend is not real. It's a cartoon character. It's okay, dude. Like, you don't have to bring her to prom. But he keeps being super insistent that she's gonna come. So they kind of just deal with it, whatever. She's, going to be at prom with this guy. And so prom is getting closer, and they keep expecting him to back out at the last second, to be like, oh, she can't come, or I'm not going to go, we're going to go do something else, come up with some reason not to be there, but he keeps being insistent about it. And finally, the night of prom comes, and everybody's all dressed up. Everybody's tuxedoed up, all that good stuff, ready to have themselves a good time, but everyone from this graphic design class is way more focused on trying to find this kid and his anime cartoon character date because they're, like, so excited to see what he's going to do. And as they're scanning the floor trying to figure out where everybody is, finally they spot him over there, and they cannot believe what he has brought to prom. This kid had brought a cardboard cutout of this anime character to prom to try to convince everybody that she was real, dude. And listen, I know everybody thinks everyone at their high school is stupid. Chances are they are. I don't think any group of people is stupid enough to think that a cardboard cutout is a real person. So obviously, whenever they see it, like, the group of people kind of go over there to talk to him. They're not going to try to make a scene or confront him or bully him or, like, overly embarrass him in front of everyone, right? Nobody wants that, but they just kind of got to, like, ask what he's doing because he is now, like, proceeding to go out on the dance floor and dance with this cardboard cutout. And obviously, a lot of people are staring, but, like, he thinks they're staring because he's out on the dance floor with his quote-unquote girlfriend. I don't think he really realized that people were aware of the fact that it's a cardboard cutout. So they go over there and they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this just looks weird. And instead of going, all right, guys, you got me. I'm really embarrassed that I committed to this fake cartoon girlfriend thing so long. So I kind of brought this cardboard cutout. I don't know why. It was really dumb that I'm thinking about it. He doesn't do that. Instead, he commits this hard where he goes, what do you mean? I'm here at prom with my date, He starts doing the voice of her, trying to talk to them, saying that, like, you guys are silly, obviously I'm real, like, what do you mean? And, you know, at that point, I feel like you've got to start getting annoyed, because that's just insulting your intelligence. So they start to be like, dude, come on. Like, do you think we're stupid? Like, you're really gonna try to pretend to be this cardboard cutout? And he does commit to the whole, like, no, it's me. And he's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't think you're stupid. I'm just his date to prom. And so finally they're like, all right, man, if you're gonna be like this is ridiculous. This isn't even convincing. It's a cardboard cutout. Like, this is paper. You didn't even try to convince us that this is a real person. You're just insulting us by pretending to be her. And at that point, he switches back to him. Oh, well, you guys are just jealous because, like, she's so skinny that she looks like a cardboard cutout. Like, that's what this is about. Oh, you guys are trying to shame her for looking like she's made of cardboard. Well, she's a real woman. She just looks like cardboard. You guys are being ridiculous about this. Like, you think I'd bring a fake girl to prom, a cardboard cutout? And everyone's just kind of looking at him like, yeah, dude, I do. Now you're trying to convince me that a real person is as skinny as a piece of cardboard. I'm starting to think this is weird. And one of the other kids in the group kind of looks at him and goes, at this point, man, it's just kind of sad. Like, it's just kind of sad at this point. Like, you're really trying to convince a bunch of people that a cardboard cutout is real. I understand you might be embarrassed, but, like, come on, man. At this point, just give it up. And he's like, no, dude, there's no way that you actually think this is a cardboard cutout. You guys are just trying to embarrass me at prom. In fact, if she's a cardboard cutout, prove it. Because I don't think you guys have any proof she's a cardboard cutout outside of you guys being jealous. And at that point, one of the other kids just leaches back and punches the cardboard cutout in the face. And obviously, cardboard cutouts aren't notorious for their ability to be, like, punched and bounce back. So as soon as he punches it, the head kind of flops back to the point where, like, the neck is now at a right angle. It is backwards, you know, it's broken. And everybody's like, see, it's cardboard, man. It's cardboard. It's cardboard. And the guy who has the cardboard cutout is sitting there with his arm still around its waist just looking at it. I don't think he expected them to, like, actually punch it. So he doesn't really know what to do. And then all of a sudden, like, the pause leaves his body and he just starts screaming like he actually just watched somebody's neck break. No, what did you guys do? You punched my girlfriend. Why did you punch my girlfriend? Oh, now I have to take her to the hospital. Oh, I have to leave prom because you guys punched my girlfriend. And he, like, slowly leaves with the cardboard cutout saying he's gonna fix it. And he's like, oh man, I have to get her to the hospital now. And he seems almost relieved. You know, if you actually just thought a bunch of dudes snapped your girlfriend's neck, I think you would have a little bit of a stronger reaction. It just looked like he appreciated the fact that he had a way out now, you know, he had an escape. And so he leaves to take her to the hospital to get fixed. And the rest of the prom for everybody else is fine. Nothing else happened. No one else brings a cardboard cutout, right? And so he ends up coming back to class and everyone's like, how's your date, man? And he's like, oh, she needed surgery. She broke her neck, but she's fine now. The doctors ended up putting back together. She says she wants to come to the dance in spring, and, you know, she understands why you guys thought that you thought she wasn't real, and, like, she understands the confusion, and maybe at the next dance you guys can talk more and hang out. So I don't know if that means that this guy actually does think he's, like, dating a cardboard cutout and it's talking back to him, in which case, you know, we got to keep an eye on that. I don't feel like that's super normal, but either that or he's just the most committed to convincing people that he's actually dating this anime character of all time. I feel like taking the cardboard cutout to prom, already bad enough. After it breaks, committing to it actually still being a real person is, like, almost impressive. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. And, of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on notifications. If you really want to help me out, you can check out the intro song linked down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel. It helps me out, helps you out. Everyone's a winner. And last but certainly not least, I did go ahead and put some of my story times up on Spotify so you guys could listen to them over there. That link will be in the top top of the description. Feel free to go do that if you want. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I have a story time that was actually told to me by a friend of mine. He told me I was all good to tell it on the channel, though. Basically, it's about how when he was 12, some guy dared him to hack him and basically embarrassed him in front of everybody and kind of challenged him to it. And my friend ended up going through and getting some revenge. The only issue is my friend at the time wasn't too bright about this stuff, so he had to go about it in a pretty mischievous way. You know how it is. But yeah, it should be a pretty good story time. But before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. You are going to get hacked by a 12-year-old. Trust me, the shame that comes with that can never be undone. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so my friend Jared has always been a pretty cool dude in my opinion. You know, he's pretty into computers. He's always building some type of crypto mine or a Raspberry Pi this. He just really loves that type of stuff. His job now is literally being a hardware engineer, so he followed through with his passion for computers. You know, he was a very techie type of guy. At least he is now, as long as I've known him. I didn't know him back when this happened. But apparently when he was 12 years old, he wasn't too bright on the whole computer thing yet. And that should be pretty obvious. Obviously, the grown man that has a job in hardware engineering is going to know a little bit more about technology than, like, the 12-year-old version of that guy. But even when he was 12, he was super interested in computers. He knew he wanted to be a hardware engineer. He was just obsessed with the stuff. And, you know, one thing that Jared did, unfortunately, because he was super into it at a young age, was he liked to pretend like he kind of knew a lot about technology, even though he didn't really at the time. He was really passionate about it. He knew he liked it, but, you know, he liked to tell people that he knew how to build computers and stuff, and he just really didn't. I don't know, I guess he just thought that, you know, being 12 years old, he had to act cooler than he is, and I think most people can relate to that. But regardless, he ended up at a summer camp one summer when he was 12, and it was like a sleepaway summer camp, not one of the ones where you just go for the day and come back home, but one where you're there for like a month. And one day at this camp, Jared is just kind of overhearing this conversation between one of the counselors, who was named Alex, and like a couple of the kids. And Alex is kind of telling everybody about his new gaming PC that he had just built because, you know, obviously he had a job being the counselor here and how he was going to add some pieces when he got back. Keep in mind, Alex is a worker here. He was 18 years old at the time of all of this going down, so an adult. And when you're working at a summer camp, I think the rule of thumb is that you're supposed to be pretty nice to everybody, dude. Like, I don't think the parents would be really cool paying you to bully their kid or whatever. But, you know, this Alex kid was known for, like, I guess kind of bullying the kids, trying to make himself feel all cool, that type of stuff. Anyways, Jared is overhearing this conversation about computers, and because he's really into computers, he kind of goes over and gets closer to it and listens even more and kind of is like paying attention to the conversation now. It's obvious that he's not just eavesdropping, he's just kind of standing there not saying anything. And Alex is like, oh, do you like computers? And obviously he says yes. And one thing that, you know, doesn't really make sense to me now, but like at the time I can understand, is Alex was really mean to all the kids. You know, he wasn't exactly a great camp counselor, but for whatever reason, people just really were like obsessed with his opinion. You know, everybody wanted to be on the good side of him. He was the cool camp counselor. He was just like the cool one. So obviously when Alex likes Jared, if he likes computers, you know, he starts to impress him. Or tries to impress him and kind of starts being like, yeah, you know, I know a fair bit about computers. And he did know a little bit. He starts talking to him about parts and whatnot. And Alex and him are kind of going back and forth. And as they're having this conversation about technology and Jared's trying to impress him, Alex says, I just think that like the really cool people with computers, the coolest people are hackers. You know, how they can get in and like take stuff or get information and nobody knows. And in that moment, Jared messed up, bro. Obviously, he was trying to be cool. He really wanted to impress this Alex guy. Keep in mind, he's like 12. So as soon as Alex says that, without thinking, he goes, oh, yeah, I know how to hack. And, you know, he didn't. Obviously, it's not good at all, but like in the moment, you know, with everybody there and just trying to want to look cool, he just stupidly says it. And instead of just kind of letting it go, which is what Alex should have done, you know, sometimes little kids get a little bit ahead of themselves, start telling tall tales. he kind of starts pressing Jared on it, like, oh, really? And kind of starts kind of getting up in his face, but not in like a quizzitively asking questions way, in like a, I'm about to try to make this guy look like an idiot and embarrass him way. And it's pretty obvious within like 2 questions that Jared does not know anything, bro. Like, he doesn't know anything that he's talking about. He's not really an expert. And at that moment, 18-year-old Alex really has 2 options here. You know, you can kind of just let it slide, pull Jared aside later, let him know that you know he doesn't know anything, and like not put him on blast in front of everybody as the super cool dude that everybody looks up to. Or you can just destroy him in front of everybody to make yourself look cooler. And he picks number 2. And so it's probably a group of like 4 people at this point. Alex kind of screams out, hey, everybody, come here. Jared thinks he's a hacker. And because he's like the cool camp counselor, everybody starts coming over. And at that moment, Jared turns beet red, dude. He's just super embarrassed. You know, that feeling when like you're getting embarrassed and everywhere just feels super hot. And he looks over at Alex and he says, look, I can't actually hack. I'm sorry. Now, even at this point, you could still just, like, let it slide, call it off, dude, but he calls over the entire summer camp that's still coming over. He's encouraging more people to come, and he just lays into this kid, saying he's an idiot, pointing out that he didn't know the answer to the questions that he asked him, and, like, how could any hacker be so stupid? And obviously, he's super embarrassed, but he's just kind of taking it on the chin because he knows he's in the wrong. Like, he doesn't think he was in the right. He doesn't think by any means, you know, that it was the greatest thing he could have done. But Alex is taking it a bit too far, you know, just keeps laying into him. And after about 3 minutes of just shaming him in front of everybody, Jared kind of gets all, like, pissed off about it and is like, well, if I hack you, will you just shut up? Obviously not a good idea, but Alex goes, yeah, but, you know, there's no way that you can't, so, you know, it's not like it matters. And at that point, the crowd's just laughing at him. He's gotten super embarrassed in front of everybody, so he just kind of walks away beet red. Obviously, Jared's in the wrong in this situation. You shouldn't say that you can do stuff you can't do, but like an adult just going after a 12-year-old at that point to just shame him for minutes and minutes in front of everybody, like, isn't the nicest thing either. So he starts thinking of ways that he can try to, like, quote-unquote hack Alex. Obviously, he doesn't actually have any hacking skills. You know, he doesn't know how to actually hack into anything. So he decides that he's just going to kind of go ahead and try to get into his phone that night. Like, while he's sleeping, maybe he can get into his phone, change some stuff around, make him think that he hacked him. And I'm not going to lie, that's pretty stupid and kind of creepy if you think about it. Like, oh, I'm going to go into his cabin while he's asleep and steal his stuff. Like, all right, that's kind of weird. But whatever, he figures it's just the best way to, like, get Alex off his back and try to save some face. And honestly, it's probably just not worth it, but that's his plan. He decides to go through with it. And his plan is to get in, like I said, and change something, but his main target was his Facebook account. This is a long time ago, obviously. He's an adult now, and at the time, Facebook was like the cool social media. So if he could get in and change the name to that, then, you know, it's all good. Now, as I said, this is creepy. Don't do this. Don't be, like, sneaking into cabins and taking people's stuff and hacking them. That's just weird. The only excuse is that he's 12 and it ends up going wrong and he's stupid, and that's why it's a good story time. Anyways, after he comes up with it, everybody's kind of treating him weird. The rest of the day is super awkward and tense, but he's determined to make his plan happen. You know, he's just kind of thinking it over in his head, where he's doing the thing where you, like, live your thought out, you know, where you're just daydreaming, like, super intensely. And throughout the day, he's just kind of watching Alex, and he watches him unlock his phone a couple times, and he learns his code, so that way, if he ever gets to it, you know, he can get into it. And finally, that night comes, and everybody's in their cabins, and, like, the lights go out, everybody kind of starts going to bed, and Jared decides that it's time to go ahead and sneak out and get out there, probably, like, an hour after everybody went to bed. To the point where most people would be asleep, you know, but, like, if he was out, it wouldn't be that questionable. And he realizes that he's going to have to sneak to a different cabin, but he doesn't want to get questioned by anybody as to, like, why he's out. So he decides that he's, like, not going to use his flashlight. But when he turns off his flashlight and goes outside to sneak to the other cabin, it's pitch black. You know, he had grown up in, like, a suburb where even at night there's, like, street lamps, that type of stuff to kind of look where you're going. But they're in the woods, dude. There is none of that. So he's kind of just stumbling all over the place, kind of trying to get through and, like, get to the other side where the cabins are. And as he's kind of stumbling through the dark, he finally gets near Alex's cabin, and he's kind of like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. Should I just go back to bed? Is this stupid? And at that moment, he hears the door to the cabin open, so he kind of, like, ducks down to make it so no one would be able to see him if they were coming out. And who other than Alex is coming out of this cabin? And so he crouches under the porch before he gets seen. like moves under there from where he already was kind of hiding. And as he's there, Alex walks out and he hears him go down the stairs and walk in the other direction, not towards his cabin, but like away, somewhere not near this place. And he's like, all right, well, obviously this is my chance. Like, you know, he was looking for is this a good idea? And then the person who he was going to do it to just leaves. So at that moment, he kind of creeps out from under the porch, slowly opens the door, slowly starts sneaking in. Remember, it's a cabin full of other people that are sleeping. So even though Alex is gone, it's not like it really matters. He still has to not wake anybody. The good thing is that he was the only counselor in this cabin, so if anybody else woke up and like looked, it would just be a kid. They wouldn't really know who it is, so he's just kind of trying to sneak through. And the other benefit of Alex not being there is originally he was going to have to go person to person and figure out who he was, but because he's not there, there's an empty bed. And, you know, he's moving towards the empty bed and his heart sinks in his chest. He feels this moment of dread and he's like, crap. I bet you if he left, he took his phone with him. And if his phone's not here, then it doesn't matter. I can be here. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. But as he gets there, thank God, for some reason, he had left his phone charging on his pillow. So, you know, by the grace of Grayskull, his plan has somehow worked out. The phone's there. So he punches in the code. And as he's doing this, like every noise, every little toss and turn, every creak, keep in mind it's a wood cabin, is like freaking him out because he doesn't really know what's going on. And he's like going in, he changes his Facebook name to get pwned by me or like something like that, you know, something that would be pretty obvious to Alex when he saw it that Jared had hacked him. I did air quotes again, I promise. But as he finishes it and he's like changes the name, saves it, and puts the phone right back where it was, he hears on the porch people coming up. And he's near a window and he looks out and Alex is coming back into the cabin. He had left, but, you know, he had just come right back, I guess. Maybe he realized he had forgot his phone or something. So Jared has this moment where he doesn't know what to do. He's like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to get caught. Do I just surrender? And like in a split second, he just goes under Alex's bed. So at this moment, he's curled up under the guy's bed of like whose phone he was just messing with. He comes back in and Alex gets in bed. So he's stuck underneath him and it sounds like he's going to sleep. And so Jared is sitting there trying to be as quiet as possible and he's thinking and he's like, dude, I can't move for a while. Like I have to let this dude fall deeply asleep before I can move. Otherwise I'm busted. And it already would have been weird if he caught me trying to change his phone. But if you caught me sleeping under its bed, it's even more weird. You know, like this is just getting out of control quickly. I should have just never done it. So he's crapping himself, you know, underneath this bed, nervous. And as he's laying there in the pitch black, waiting for time to pass, somehow, I don't know how this is even possible, he falls asleep. And that's right, while hiding under someone's bed, he like manages to pass out. And he wakes up a couple hours later and he looks and it's still dark. And he's like, thank God I didn't oversleep. And he rolls out from under the bed and creeps out. And as soon as he's down the stairs on like the porch of the cabin, he sprints back to his as fast as humanly possible, just trying to get back there. And he gets back in, lays down in his bed, sleeps for like another hour or two till everybody else gets up. Everybody else gets up and he's just acting normal. You know, hey guys, what's up? Oh yeah, I slept great last night. You know, just playing along, just acting like everything's chill. And as everything's being normal, people are getting ready and whatnot, there's a knock on the door and everybody looks out and it's Alex. And they're like, yo, Alex is here. Yo, Alex is here. And the door opens and he looks in and he says, hey, Jared, can I talk to you? And everybody's like, ooh, you know, and he goes outside and Alex kind of takes him away from the cabin a bit. And he goes, hey, I just wanted to apologize for making fun of you yesterday. Like, I saw that you changed my Facebook name. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that you were being serious. And Jared, you know, while he's crapping bricks, is like trying to play it all cool. He's like, yeah, man, it's cool, we're good. Like, he's obviously nervous, you know. And Alex is like, it's pretty cool that you did that, though, you know. Like, it was pretty neat. Like, it's pretty cool. I didn't expect that of you. So, like, we're good, right? And he's like, yeah, we're all good. And Alex is like, all right, good. Well, then I'll see you in a bit. Pats him on the shoulder and goes to leave. And he leaves, and Jared is like, oh, my God, how did any of this happen? Last night was insane. Goes into the mirror. He's obviously white as a sheet. Like, just obviously nervous, dude. And, yeah, moral of the story, don't do what he did. Like, very fortunate that he did not end up getting the crap beat out of him in this scenario. And, yeah, nobody really knew. Alex had changed his name back. He didn't admit that anything had happened. Jared didn't really want more publicity, so they just kind of went about it. He respected him after that and kind of left him alone. Regardless, I wouldn't really recommend this. I give this plan about a 0 out of 10. Either way, accidentally ending up having to, like, sleep under a bed because you're an idiot is pretty funny. So, yeah, on that note, though, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to press the like button. Comment the word dragon down below if you enjoyed it and made it this far. It just helps me know how many people made it to the end and helps me in recommended. And, of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You can also check out the Scrub Shorts channel. I'll put the link in the top of the description. I'm just uploading little shorts on there, as the name implies, but go sub to it because I want another plaque. Other than that, my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, is down in the description with a link to the merch that's on screen now, aka the coolest merch to ever exist. If you haven't already, go get yours. It's pretty fantastic. If you ask me, and I'm not biased in the slightest, it's not like it's my merch at all. On that note, though, guys, I think that's going to do it entirely for the video. Big thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. One more time. I'm getting desperate here, and yeah. On that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a story time for y'all that, you know, I've been wanting to tell for a little bit, but just haven't really had the time to sit down and get done. But new month, new me, I figured now would be the perfect time to tell the story of the time that a fully grown man ended up showing up at my house when I was like 13 to try to fight me over some Xbox beef. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I've been embarrassed of this for a while, okay? My parents definitely made me hop off the Xbox for a couple months after this, but it should be a pretty good story time, so sit back, relax, and enjoy, and press the like button, or no joke, no scam, someone's showing up at your house, and let's get into it.
On Discord to celebrate. It's not good. Nice rack in her ass Brazilian. Just turned 21, but my bank's a million. Swear I'm a little drunk, but it's a hell of a feeling.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's no secret that playing video games online is a little bit of a different world. You know, you say things that you would never necessarily say to, like, somebody in person, and for anyone that's like, oh, yeah, because you're a coward. No, it's just because it's Call of Duty trash talking, and we're all aware that it's just not that deep. And things have definitely calmed down now. I would say the internet is less toxic than it used to be, and I know that's surprising to a lot of you, but like back in the day in an Xbox 360 game chat, you would hear things that would make a sailor blush a little bit. You know, the insults were impressive, bro. I've been told to kill myself in more creative ways than, like, I don't know, Edgar Allan Poe. It was just a little bit of an awful place. That being said, it basically raised me as a kid. I don't know what it was, dude, but playing Call of Duty with, like, people online was really all I wanted to do as a kid. My parents would be like, go outside, go do this, go do that, and I'd be like, excuse me, guys, I've really got to get my prestige on. I would prefer it if you would just, you know, maybe stay back about 200 feet so that way I can get my game on. And for some reason, when I was gaming, bro, I would hang out with these dudes who were a little bit older than me. I was like 12, 13. They were maybe, you know, 18, 19 years old, a little bit older. And they kind of taught me how to talk trash a little bit. You know, 12-year-old me was not as creative with the words, but with the help of some older gentlemen, I was able to up my vocabulary, and trash talking became something I was pretty good at. And whenever I would play COD with my friends and the other people would start trash talking, they would usually encourage me to trash talk, because something is more insulting about getting trash talked by a 12-year-old, you know? If they were talking crap on me and the boys, then it was like, all right, Ryan, start flaming them. And then little 12-year-old me hops on the mic. Yo, what's up, guys? Your mom's a stupid whore, dude. Oh my God, I'm telling you, your mom is so stupid. Oh, dude, your mom gets passed around like a joint at a Wiz Khalifa concert. Honestly, bro, you've probably got so many options for who your dad is that the Maury Show is still recording. It has been since you were born. You're 21 years old, and they're still cycling through the amount of men that could be your dad, dog. You know, 12-year-old me was just going in, and we thought it was hilarious. And one day, we're just chilling, playing video games, and there was this older guy on the other team. I would guess, based on his voice and what he ended up looking like, that he was, you know, late 20s, early 30s, you know, 28, 29, 30, 31, that range. And for whatever reason, he was just talking a bunch of crap in the pregame lobby. So of course, I'm with a couple of my friends, and I just start talking trash back. And I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't even necessarily going that hard on the guy. Like, I'm somebody, I know how to talk trash, I know how to get under your skin, but I genuinely wasn't even really trying to get under the guy's skin. I think I just started saying something about how, like, apparently he's good at Call of Duty, but he has to use the ACR with the red red dot sight. Because back in the day, that was just super OP. It was a laser. I was just talking trash, you know, as you do when you're playing video games. But this guy, when I decide to insult his choice of gun, just starts coming for my neck, bro. He starts talking about, you know, my mom, how, you know, clearly they don't care about me if I'm playing this video game, all that stuff. So he starts insulting me back. And obviously, I don't want to look like a wimp in front of my friends, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Some people out there on the internet are like, I don't care what my friends think. All right, well, good for y'all, but I do, all right? So when 30-year-old Bob the Builder over here starts roasting me in front of everybody and they start laughing, you know I had to defend my honor. I had to hit him with that, hey, dude, well, you're stupid. Obviously, it was a little bit better than you're stupid. I'm trying to stay monetized, but me and this guy start going back and forth. And whenever you're like in a roast battle with somebody, you can kind of tell what they're sensitive about based on their reactions. So I just kind of started calling him a 30-year-old loser. And I could tell that whenever I would mention him being a loser or him being lonely or whatever, that he was just getting like really, really, really mad. Like, you know, normally he would be insulting me, but whenever I would call him a loser, he would just start screaming at me. And because we're both going back and forth trying to piss each other off, I just started calling him a loser over and over again. And he starts telling me that like he's not a loser, bro. His wife's a supermodel, you know, and definitely not a loser whatsoever. And obviously he starts telling me that like his wife is a supermodel, and I just start kind of poking holes in his story because it's cap. I'm like, oh, okay, so your wife's just cool with you screaming at 12-year-olds all day on Xbox while she's like out being a supermodel? And he's like, well, shut up, dude, shut up, man. Me and my wife's relationship is great. Like, don't you comment on it. You don't know anything about it. And I said something along the lines of like, well, obviously I don't know anything about your wife and yours relationship because let's be honest here, everybody in this lobby knows that she doesn't exist. And when I said that, the lobby started laughing. Even people that like hadn't really been involved yet all started giggling because I had just made this guy look silly. I don't know why he decided to make up a supermodel wife. All right, that's a pretty easy thing to disprove. We're all sitting here screaming at the Xbox, dude. None of us got that going on. But regardless, when everybody started laughing, that's when he switched from just trash talker on the internet to very scary person that I wish I wouldn't have insulted. So I get an invite to this dude's party, and I let my friends know that he invited me, and they're like, yo, join and invite us. So I join and I invite my friends, and we're all sitting there just kind of talking trash to this guy in the party. And this used to be a way bigger problem on Xbox Live. It obviously can still happen now, so be careful about, you know, hopping in servers with strangers and stuff. But as we're sitting in this party talking trash to this guy, he just starts reading out our addresses, dude. And if you've ever been talking trash in Call of Duty and then you start hearing your address get read out to you, it's pretty horrifying, you know. I'm a little bit more used to it now, like it's happened, it is what it is. But this is the first time anyone has ever been like, hey, I know where you live, buddy. And immediately 13-year-old me is freaking out, bro. Not even necessarily because I was scared. Like, sure, the guy showing up to my house was a scary thought, but I was more scared on how in the world I was gonna explain to my parents like how our address had gotten out on the internet and people were gonna show up. Because here I am trying to convince my parents that I should be able to play more Call of Duty, and of course they're parents, so they're like, oh, there's strangers on the internet that are gonna come kidnap you. And I had spent so much time convincing them that wasn't gonna happen. No, mom, I'm not gonna get kidnapped. No way, you're tripping. And here I am sitting in this party listening to this dude read out my address, and I'm like, ah, crap. So all my friends and I stop laughing immediately, and we're just kind of like, what do you want? What do you want? And the guy is like, I want an apology. So all my friends decide that they're going to apologize. And for some reason, like 12-year-old me decides that I'm going to be stubborn. In retrospect, I'm telling you this now as the adult in this situation, I 100% should have just apologized. When somebody is reading out your address saying they're about to show up at your house unless you apologize and they're crazy enough to just do it, it's easier for everybody to just go, hey man, I'm sorry. Clearly this dude was having a bad day. I should have just apologized. That being said, this wouldn't be as good of a story time if I did. So everybody else is apologizing, and he gets to me and he's like, I want an apology from you. And instead of apologizing, for some stupid reason, this was not well thought out. This was idiotic. This was the exact opposite of what I should have done. I told him to come to my house. I don't know why I did it. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. Don't do that. And I told him, pull up and fight me then if you're so tough. And what's really bizarre is I didn't know where this guy lived. He had a little bit of a southern drawl, so I had assumed that he lived across the country, and this is why you should never assume anything. There's an old saying I've heard a couple times about assuming, and it's like you never want to assume because it makes an ass out of you and me, and I just made an ass out of myself because I told him to pull up, and instead of living like in the south of the country, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away from me, he lets me know that he actually lives about 10 minutes away. And he's like, all right, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And he leaves the party. And as soon as that happens, everybody in the like party that's left, all my friends, are telling me I'm a moron. Like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? I've got to go tell your parents. Like, I've got to go tell my parents, you know, da-da-da-da-da. They're all yelling at me, calling me an idiot. They were not on board for what I had just done. And at that point, I'm sitting there. I think I was literally in my underwear with my headset on. And I don't know what to do. I'm like, do I tell my parents? Do I hope he doesn't show up? What do I do? And they're like, look, you got to go tell your parents. And I knew my parents weren't going to be happy, but at this point, there might be a crazy guy on the way to my house. So I'm like, all right, well, I've got to tell them. I don't really have a choice here. I've got myself into this mess. I at least need them to know that there might be a crazy person coming to kill me over Call of Duty. So I'll never forget, I like walk into my parents' room, bro. And my dad was sitting on the bed and my mom was like in the closet or something. And I looked at my dad and I go, hey dad, I've got to tell you something and I know you're going to be mad. So will you just let me explain before you start reacting? And he looks at me and he's like, okay. And you know the look when your parents are very nervous about what you're about to say? So I start telling him, you know, naturally trash talking is normal when you're competitive, and obviously sometimes when you get into the moment you start to say things that maybe go a little bit too far or get people angry. And my dad is like, all right, well, what did you say? You know, like, what's the situation? I go, oh, no, I didn't say anything too bad. I mean, I was swearing, you know, I will say that. I thought if I was like super honest about everything that I would get in less trouble. And so I start explaining that basically there was this grown man in the COD lobby who was talking a lot of trash, so I started trash talking back, thinking that, you know, it was just gonna be some COD beef. And my dad is like, all right. And then I explained that he invited me to a party and I joined it because I just thought he wanted to talk more trash, but that when I got in there, he started reading off everybody's addresses. And I'll never forget when I told my dad that, like, the addresses were getting read off, bro, his eyes got all wide and he goes, okay, and then I explained that, you know, he said our address and the guy sounded like he was from the South. So I challenged him to come fight me, and come to find out he lives like 15 minutes away and he's on his way to fight me. And I said it and my dad immediately is just like, you what? Are you kidding me? Why would you challenge a grown man to a fight? What's wrong with you? You're a child. Even if he shows up, like, he's gonna beat you. Are you kidding me? Now I have to fix this. Why are you giving away our address on the internet? Do you have any idea what could happen? What if you get kidnapped now? You know, all the parent stuff. And listen, obviously I didn't get kidnapped. I'm still here, but imagine you're sitting there on the bed just relaxing and your son walks up to you and goes, oh, by the way, someone's on the way to come beat me up. No big deal though. Like, obviously you'd be freaking out too, you know? So my dad is like, all right, let me go get your mom. So he goes and gets my mom, and he comes out. He's like, you're not going to believe how stupid our son is, you know? So I have to repeat the story to my mom, and sure enough, she has the same reaction. What's wrong with you? Are you trying to get kidnapped? Why do you want to die? And I'm like, Mom, I don't want to die. Listen, look, guys, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's still a guy coming to beat me up right now. So my dad basically is like, all right, what did you say? And be completely honest. He thought that, you know, I had said some really horrible stuff to this dude, but I basically was just calling him like a giant neckbeard. It wasn't that bad. So my dad's like, all right, well, at least you didn't say anything that deserves to be beaten up for it, you know? My dad's always been like pretty honest with me. So if I had said something where I deserved to get punched in the face, he honestly might have let it happen. Probably not. He's not a bad dad. That was a joke. But like, you guys get what I'm saying. So obviously my dad's like, all right, well, let's go wait by the door. So my dad goes into the closet and he grabbed an item, and I don't really know if I'm allowed to say what the item is on YouTube. I'll put it this way. He grabbed an item where if you point it at somebody trying to break into your house and beat up your child, chances are they're either going to leave or they're gonna leave the earth. You picking up what I'm putting down? And before anyone in the comments is like, why did your dad grab a gun? Well, I don't know. There's a crazy person on the way to beat up his 12-year-old son. What do you think? So whatever, we're just kind of sitting there by the door, and as we're sitting there by the door, I'm getting a lecture from my dad about, you know, never talk to strangers, don't give out my address, blah blah blah. And so I'm explaining to my dad, actually, that, like, I didn't give him our address. You know, there's something called an IP resolver, and if you're in an Xbox party chat for long enough, they can resolve your IP and get it that way. Genuinely, I'm enlightening my dad on how this stuff happens. So we're sitting there having a nice conversation, and for a little bit, I honestly forgot what we were sitting there for. Like, if I wouldn't have known any better, those couple minutes of explaining to my dad how the IP had gotten it and, like, how he had gotten our address from that, you know, everything was going great. It was almost like I forgot that I had somehow talked trash to somebody unhinged enough on Xbox that they came to my house to come beat me up. But hey, that's just the way the life is sometimes. And thankfully, my dad didn't let me live it down. As soon as things kind of seemed to go back to normal, he immediately, like, got all stern and was like, but let's not forget why you're here, mister. You know, you gotta be careful. You never know who you're talking to online. Which is true. You know, like, one important lesson I learned from this is just, it's not worth trash talking with everybody you meet in a game lobby. You know, messing with the boys, that's one thing. But if some guy's really having a bad day in the Xbox lobby, it's probably better to just let him be and not push him to the point where he comes to show up at your house, dude. I don't know how bad of a day that this guy was having, but it had to have been pretty bad. You know, I've never been having a bad enough day to go show up at somebody talking trash to me on Xbox's house and, like, threaten to beat him up. Maybe that's just because I'm a normal human being. But sure enough, my dad are sitting there, and there's finally a knock at the door. So obviously there's a knock at the door, and my dad goes and he looks out the people and he sees it and he opens it and he goes, hello? And I hear a voice on the other side that's very obviously, like, not a kid. And it's like, oh, hello. I think that maybe I'm looking for somebody that lives here. And my dad is, like, obviously sketched out by this dude. So he says, oh, well, who are you looking for, you know? And this guy says my gamer tag, which, you know, is really, really embarrassing, bro. My gamer tag at the time was a joke about boobs. So hearing this grown man tell my dad the boob name that I had on Xbox was really funny. And my dad obviously is like, I don't know anyone by that name here, because he didn't really know my gamer tag. And this guy starts explaining to my dad the situation. And I don't know if he thought somehow that, like, this was gonna make my dad be like, yeah, go beat up my son. But he starts explaining to my dad that, you know, we were playing Call of Duty and I was talking trash and saying all this stuff to him. And obviously, you know, he doesn't like to be disrespected. So he got my address to come teach me a lesson about manners and da-da-da-da-da. And my dad stops him and he goes, okay, so let me get this straight. You were getting trash talked by a 12-year-old in a video game, so you decided to get his address and then come here to teach him a lesson. And the guy is like, yeah, basically. And my dad looks at him and is like, well, what lesson do you want to teach my kid? And the guy says, well, you know, maybe I'll just, like, rough him up a little bit. And my dad's like, no, you're not gonna rough up my son. No, you're not gonna go anywhere near him. And the guy, for some reason, is like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. This guy had to have been nuts or something, bro, because I'm sorry. If somebody was like, huh? Imagine knocking on somebody's door and their dad answers, and you just, like, are explaining why you should be allowed to beat up their kid. But keep in mind, you're also literally over double their age. So they're kind of having that conversation, and my dad's starting to get more annoyed when he realizes that this guy is a moron. Like, it's not even just a guy having a bad day. This guy unironically thinks that he's allowed to, like, beat up kids. So my dad tells him to get off his property, and the guy is kind of pissed off, and he's like, no, I'm not leaving till I get to talk to your son. And my dad tells him again, you know, get off my property. Like, get off my property. You have no right to be here. Get out of here. You're not going to teach my son a lesson. And at that point, this guy is like, fine, I'll just wait in my car till your kid has to go to school, and I'll teach him a lesson then. Which is never a good thing to say to an angry parent, bro. Regardless of whether or not I was talking trash on Xbox, sitting outside of somebody's house until they have to go somewhere so you can teach them a lesson, I'm pretty sure is the definition of stalking, bro. Like, oh yeah, I may have sat outside the house for 47 hours waiting for you to have to go to the bathroom, but hey, that's the way the ball bounces sometimes. Shouldn't have talked trash on Call of Duty, bruh. Not to mention, I called you a 30-year-old loser, and only a 30-year-old loser would have the free time to sit outside a 12-year-old's house to teach him a lesson about Xbox trash talking, bro. I've never seen anybody who's a winner in life being like, you want to go stalk some kids? So, the guy was just kind of being obnoxious, so my dad had had that little boom boom stick in his pocket. So at that point, he brandished it, didn't point it at anything, and he's like, if you threaten me or my family again, we're gonna have problems, and you're gonna leave. Do you understand? And it seems like the guy who thought he was in a video game before kind of realized that, no, reality is real, and this guy is not playing games about you threatening his family, you know? So he skedaddled very quickly after that, bro. And for anyone that's like, oh, that was wrong of your dad. Nah, I would have done the same thing, dude. I mean, I was 12, bro. Like, listen, I'm all for, like, accountability or whatever. If I did this now, yeah, it's my issue. I probably should have taken it outside or whatever. I was a 12-year-old. This was a 30-year-old man saying he was going to beat up a 12-year-old, guys. That's not cool. What? That's like me beating up one of you. Anyways, after he left though, bro, oh my god, I got the lecture of a lifetime, and not in a fun way, dude. My mom and dad sat me down, made me like watch all these documentaries about kids that got kidnapped and stuff and like were never found again because they didn't believe me that the guy had like just gotten the address, bro. They thought that I had given it to him, and they wouldn't believe me when I was like, Mom, I didn't give him the address. My mom was crying, saying that like she doesn't want to lose her little boy. I'm like, Mom, I'm not gonna die, dude. I got my Xbox taken away for a year after that, dude, and even then, when I got it back, I had to like secretly get Xbox Live because they didn't want me to have it. But yeah, I will say, like, it was horrifying at the time. I hope none of you ever find yourselves in a situation like that, but it's a pretty funny story time, all things considered, bro. And realistically, now that I'm older, the fact that I'm so good at trash talking that I somehow convinced an adult to drive to my house and try to fight me, it isn't something that I should be proud of, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm smiling just a tiny little bit right now. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a quick second to press the like button. We'll even take a second right now. Go press it. Press like. Press it. Press it if you liked the video, please. And if you really enjoyed, go ahead and comment down below too. Obviously, this was a longer story time, so all support would be appreciated, and subscribing with notifications on is the ultimate support. If y'all like the intro song, I'll put a link to it down in the description along with the link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. And if you're really trying to support the channel, the link to the merch store can always be found down below too. Get yourself some of the coolest merch to ever exist. I'm obviously a little bit biased, but hey, who's not? And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Don't get anyone pregnant whatsoever, and if you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see you guys all next time in another video. I'm gonna go play some Xbox until somebody talks trash to me so I can find out where they live, go to their house, and try to fight them if anyone needs me. And yeah, this has been Scrubs, and I'm out. Peace.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today I've got a story time for you guys that is a little bit different. It's basically just gonna be me telling you guys about a wild night that me and the boys had a little bit ago, where we ended up meeting a bunch of crazy people at 4 in the morning, and it was just a pretty funny time. Regardless, I figured it would be something y'all enjoy, so without further ado, be sure to press the like button, or no joke, no scam, you're gonna get kidnapped at 4 a.m. And without further ado, let's get into it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
It's so good, it's not good. Nice rack in her ass Brazilian. Just turned 21, but my bank's a million. Swear I'm a little drunk, but it's a hell of...
Alright, so it's safe to say that usually only weird or crazy people are out at 4 in the morning. And I guess I'm definitely a little bit bizarre, bro. Like, I talk to video games as my job. And about, you know, a year ago now, before everything went to crap, I had a couple friends in town, and I live in Vegas. And whenever people are in Vegas, they really want to see the strip, dude. They're like, oh my god, it's gotta be so cool. Gambling is sick. I bet you the strip is a shining beacon of swag. And listen, there are sometimes 100% where the strip is fantastic. The strip is great. It's a good time. That being said, the later in the night it gets, usually like the drunker the people get and the weirder they get. You know what I mean? Like everybody by 4 a.m. that's relatively normal is like back in bed or at least getting near their hotel room. Maybe not everyone, but you get the idea. So a couple of my friends that were in town really wanted to go down to the strip, and so we went down there, and obviously we started partaking in activities that you do on the strip. So we started to get a little hydrated, and as we were walking around, just like looking at the lights, doing all the cool stuff, talking to people and whatnot, time started to move pretty quick. And because we were all in a little bit of a different state, we weren't exactly like checking our phones, checking our watches, so time started to really get away from us. And I noticed that something was off when like the fun people that used to be, walking around everywhere. The crowded walkways became very empty, and what used to be fun people started to be the type of people that, like, you didn't want to make eye contact with on the off chance they thought it was a threat and decided to rip your throat out of your esophagus, right? And at that time, I decided to look at my phone, and I very distinctly remember it being like 4:30 a.m. And I was like, guys, it's 4:30, and everyone was like, oh crap, we should probably like start walking back to the place where the Ubers were. So it's 4:30 and we start walking back, and obviously if we would have just gotten there, no incident, there wouldn't have been a story time. But while we're on the way there, one of my friends who isn't from this town and just hasn't really learned to like ignore people trying to give you stuff on the street started talking to this dude handing out these like pamphlet cards. And listen, if you're from a big city, you know exactly what these people are, bro. They're just paid to sit out here and like give you stuff, and try to make you feel guilty, so you go there or give them money. So usually you just ignore them and keep walking, you know what I mean? But my friend's from a small town, so he starts talking to the dude, and sure enough, this guy is telling us about, there's this club a little bit that way, and it's really cool, and you guys should go. And we're like, no, I don't think we're gonna go to the club. We're actually trying to go home. It's 4 a.m. I'm sure the club is closing down soon. And he's pretty understanding of that, right? But what happens next is really bizarre. Instead of like letting us walk away fine, no incident, he starts telling me and my friends about how he's a star seed, which, for those of you that don't know, I know because he explained it to me, means that he basically has alien thoughts and DNA inside of him, and when he's on copious amounts of certain substances, he becomes an alien and gets, like, alien powers. And obviously, even though I'm out of it, I'm like, yeah, okay, you're crazy, dude. People want to believe in themselves, that's one thing. You start telling me that you are a rare human that has alien consciousness infused into your body, and sometimes you have memories of an alien, I'm gonna start looking at you crazy, bro. There's nothing I can possibly do to change that. And obviously the group kind of gets quiet at that point, and then he says something really funny. He's like, do you guys want to see proof of my alien powers? And whenever somebody starts talking about how they're an alien, they have alien memories or whatever, yeah, I do want to see your alien powers, bro, because I know there's no way this guy's actually an alien. And off the off chance he is, dude, if somehow he like calls a UFO down from the sky, whatever, I'm out. I'm going to Mars. You guys have a good time vibing on Earth, losers. I'm out. There's better things to do. Or I get to laugh at a guy trying to prove he's an alien. So obviously we say yes, and he's like, all right, everyone stand back. So we take a step back, and he closes his eyes, and he starts like humming, and he's humming for a bit, and it starts getting really intense, like like almost like a goddamn NASCAR engine, dude. This guy is humming with such intensity. And obviously we're like, is he pooping his pants right now? What could he possibly be doing to just be hummy, and then he opens his eyes just as quickly as he closed them, and he goes, did you guys see it? And I'm not gonna lie, bro, I did not see a single thing. Like, if you want me to keep it a buck with you, he closed his eyes, hummed so hard I thought he was about to poop his pants, and that was it. I did not really see anything else happen. So we're like, wait, what was supposed to happen? And he's like, oh, I started glowing. You probably couldn't see it because of all the neon lights. Homie really said that he started glowing because he hummed so hard, which first of all is a lame superpower. I don't know how many of you guys have seen Sky High, but there's a guy in that movie whose power is he can like glow yellow like a glow stick, and everybody talks about how useless his power is, because guess what? I'm sorry, unless you're like attending a rave or playing laser tag, I don't think having the ability to become a glow stick is a super cool power. But even then, homie just straight up didn't glow. Like, at least having a power is having a power. Even if it is lame, at least you have a superpower. Nah, this guy was not in one of those situations, bro. He really was just humming, convinced that he had made himself glow. To this day, I'm almost 100% sure he literally just like made up whatever power he remembered from Sky High in that exact moment. But when we start telling him that he wasn't glowing, he starts being like, all right, well, I have other powers I can show you. And now we're invested. So he's like, all right, come with me and I'll show you some powers. And I tell him straight up, we're not going to your house. We're not going to your car. We're not going in an alleyway with you. If you're gonna show us your powers, you need to show us it here. You know what I mean? I don't know if this guy thought I was a moron, but I'm not about to follow some dude that swears he's an alien with superpowers off the brightly lit, very safe area off of it to like some dark, sketchy area where him and all of his alien friends might be waiting to, I don't know, abduct my wallet from my pocket. So he looks at me and he's like, you too are a starseed. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he starts saying that only other aliens have the ability to speak to other aliens like that. So he didn't realize that I was also an alien, and he apologizes for the disrespect. And now I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? I am not an alien. I'm 100% human. So I tell him that I'm human, and he starts saying that's not true. And obviously, I must have been way too powerful of an alien if they wiped my memory and didn't allow me to remember that I'm an alien, bro. I'm getting gaslit by a crackhead at 4 a.m. when I'm wasted. I don't know what's happening. So we're kind of like, okay, we gotta go. So we start going to leave, but now this guy is convinced I'm an alien. So he's like, I need to get your phone number so I can start telling you all about your alien ancestry and how to use your powers. And I'm like, you know, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really care. I'm really okay not being an alien. I'm fine. And he starts saying that, like, no matter how hard I reject my destiny, there's nothing I can do to run from the fact that I am of another world. Honestly, I was feeling like the main character in an anime, bro. Like, no, Dad, I do not want to be the next ninja. Well, son, ninja is in your DNA. There is simply nothing you can do to escape the fact that your fate is ninja. Haha, there is nothing. So, regardless, man, I'm just kind of like, all right, well, we're gonna go. So we start kind of walking away, but he's following us, trying to convince me that I have to come with him to learn my alien journey. And we get off the kind of walkway to the point where there's kind of like bushes to the left of us. And as we're walking, like, a cop car drives by. And when the cop car drives by, Mr. Starseed, Alien Genius, 420 Swag, Blaze It, Mr. God himself dives into these bushes, dude, like full swan dive. You know in Black Ops 1 how you can dolphin dive into the bushes? Like, that's honestly what this guy does. He flings himself into the bushes with some veracity, and we're all kind of like, all right, now's our chance. And it was almost like an unspoken thing. While he's in the bushes or like trying to get out, me and all my friends, nobody says anything. We just start running to try to get away from this dude who's been following us. So we're running. We start like weaving in and out of casinos and whatnot. And we hear him being like, guys, behind us. And we're like, nope. We're really okay, Mr. Crazy Alien Dude. We don't want anything to do with you, bro, because he was just following us. We didn't know what to do. So after we ran away for a bit, we're like, all right, it's about, 5:15 in the morning now. After getting chased by a crazy dude who thinks he's an alien, we're like, it's time to go home. So we call an Uber, we head to the nearest casino that has an Uber, and we're thinking that everything's gonna be good. So we end up getting into this Uber, everything's fine, me and all my friends fit in, we're going to the address, and the guy starts asking us if we had a good night and whatnot. And obviously we're still a little tipsy, so we start telling him about the crazy alien dude and how, like, he was convinced that I was an alien, and it was just awkward, and he was chasing us, and he dove into the bushes, and the guy is really quiet when we're telling him this story. You know how usually when you're telling somebody something funny or crazy, like, they'll laugh or be like, oh my god, that's crazy. So I finally get to the end of the story, and he's like, well, I think that some people just have different beliefs, and you shouldn't count them out, and we're kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe, man. And then he starts talking about how he's been a starseed since the mid-'80s, bro. In one night, I met 2 of these dudes. I had never met anyone before that swears that they have alien consciousness embedded in their DNA before, dude. But in one night, I get chased by one, and then I hop in the whip and start talking about how crazy this dude is, only to be telling it to another one who's convinced he's an alien. Obviously, it was very awkward, too, considering I had just slammed the other dude for, like, being a crazy crackhead and, like, all that stuff. So as soon as he started talking about how he's one, too, I immediately was just super embarrassed because I was like, oh my god, even though this dude's crazy, that's just awkward. Just absolutely dunking on something somebody believes in, not knowing it, oops. So whatever, he starts telling us how he's an alien, and at that point, me and all my friends in the car just simultaneously, like, once again, a small unspoken agreement amongst the boys, just agreed to shut up and not say literally anything anything for the rest of the ride because there was no way that anything that this dude was about to say or anything we were gonna say was gonna end in anything but an argument. How do I respond to that, bro? Like, yeah, you're right. You definitely are an alien with alien consciousness. And here's what's wild, bro. If you guys are aliens, if you have all these alien memories, you know, if you're so sophisticated, you are from another planet with the ability to do interplanetary space travel, right? Why are you a crackhead on the Vegas Strip? That's all I'm saying, dude. Like, if you really are a genius alien with all the memories of this advanced species, the ability to make technology never thought of by man, you also would not be a crackhead. You know, you wouldn't be picking up drunk people at 4 in the morning. Like, Bill Gates might be an alien, all right? Elon Musk, we're not too sure that that guy's human. You get what I'm saying? I just feel like if aliens are on Earth, they're in charge of this hoe. They're not like picking me up. My goodness, imagine getting in a spaceship for 800 years. You have to light speed travel across the galaxies just to drive Scrubby and his friends home, dude. What the hell? Anyways, the guy like finally gets us home, bro. We get out of the car, we all go inside, and we're like kind of just sitting there in the living room talking about what just happened. And we all agreed that like that was so bizarre. The odds of meeting that many people that all think that they're aliens in one stretch of time is either the aliens trying to send us a time or a sign, you know, or my city's just full of crazy people. And I really do think it's the later because I've met a lot of crazy people in this town. But realistically, dude, you never expect to meet two people that are both secret aliens that forgot their existence but then remembered it, but then also the aliens don't want them. I'm still really not too sure what's going on right now, bro. I will say, homeboy had me blushing when he said I was an alien, though. Like, gee, you really think I'm out of this world, mister? Ah, thanks. That means a lot. Before you told me that I was an alien, I was really thinking about just getting in a rocket without a helmet on. I don't know, bro. If I am an alien, trust me, if I ever go to the national meeting of the Fleepledork gang on planet Zimbop, I will let all of you know, bro. I'm not gonna be a selfish starseed and keep the secrets of alien existence from the people. The second they start sending me mind control messages, I'm letting all y'all know. Don't worry, I will keep America and the Earth safe. That's priority number 1. Sorry, aliens, but you guys didn't raise me. The internet did. That's where my loyalty lies. USA. USA. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I know this was a very weird story time. I don't really know what I'm gonna title it. Maybe like people you meet at 4 a.m. or something. I have no clue. But yeah, it was just an interesting situation I figured you guys would enjoy hearing about. If you did enjoy listening to it, I would really appreciate y'all doing me a favor and pressing the like button. It just helps the video do better. And if you wouldn't mind commenting down below, I would appreciate it as well. If you guys were an alien, what planet would you be from? All right, that's what I want you guys to comment down below. Mars, Flingelborp, whatever. It's really up to you. You guys let me know. Other than that, if you are new, you should subscribe and turn on notifications. I simply put the best story times over Valorant gameplay posted in the year 2021. It's a simple fact. And you're never going to want to miss another upload. If you want more content, I do have a podcast called The Scuffed Cast. You can find a link to that down in the description, along with a link to the intro song. If you enjoyed it, the Spotify link's down there. And the last link I got a plug from the description is, of course, the merch store. Go ahead and get yourself some of the coolest merch to ever exist. I'm biased, of course, but it helps out the channel. And yeah, on that note, if y'all got stories you want to send in to my Instagram, it's at Scrubby. The Twitter is at Scrubby_69. And yeah, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I will see all of y'all with another video soon. I'm out. Peace.